Stranded in an airport with a fussy baby, a single mom struggles to keep her little girl calm until a kind CEO steps in to help. What he doesn't know yet? The baby in his arms is his own daughter. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. An airport can be an unsettling place when planes stop flying as scheduled. Anxiety seeps into every corner, especially if the delay stretches longer than anyone hoped. It was exactly this kind of tension that simmered at Gate 47, where people waited for a flight that now, due to unexpected mechanical problems, wouldn't depart until late into the night. The overhead announcements crackled with half apologies and uncertain updates, leaving passengers in a fidgety limbo. Emma cradled her 2-year-old daughter, Lily, on a rigid plastic chair as the minutes dragged by. Lily's cheeks were pink with exhaustion. She hadn't managed a proper nap all day, and the little girl was teetering on the edge of a complete meltdown. Emma, barely in her mid-20s, was worn out too. She kept glancing at her phone, though it offered no comfort. The airline app just repeated the same message: flight delayed. A soft, desperate lullaby escaped Emma's lips as she tried to soothe Lily. But the waiting area was congested, the seats full, and Lily was starting to fuss in that way that made older travelers glare with impatience. Emma felt a flush of embarrassment. She knew the frustrated stares, the irritated sighs. She'd encountered them so many times before in tight spaces like grocery store aisles or bus stops. Usually, traveling with an active toddler at night would be a nightmare under any circumstances, but Emma had no choice. She had to return home for a new job opportunity that, if everything went right, might turn her financial situation around. The hush of the tension was suddenly interrupted by the calm, confident voice of a man who was finishing a phone call. He stood a few chairs away, tall and composed in a sharp, tailored suit. His name was Daniel, a CEO of a technology firm that specialized in creating innovative solutions for online businesses, or so the snippet of conversation Emma overheard suggested. She noticed how some passengers recognized him. A few whispered among themselves, referencing business magazines or corporate headlines. Daniel had an air of determination around him, a quiet assurance that turned heads. Yet beneath that poised exterior, Daniel's day had also taken a heavy toll. He was returning from a grueling business conference where he'd attempted to secure a crucial partnership. The negotiations hadn't ended as smoothly as he'd hoped. A new wave of doubt gnawed at him. Even as a top executive, Daniel wasn't immune to late-night anxieties or the demands of success. He caught Emma's eye for just a moment. She quickly looked away, muttering soothing words to Lily, who began a renewed chorus of restless cries. Emma's face heated. She didn't want pity, nor did she want to draw attention to herself and her baby, but if Lily's tears were any clue, she was definitely drawing more attention than she wanted. An announcement came over the intercom. A further delay, perhaps another hour or two. Groans swept through the crowd. Daniel ended his phone call with a grimace. His body stiffened slightly, revealing his frustration. Then he glanced back at Emma, seeing the flush of tiredness across her cheeks and the big tears streaming down Lily's face. There was a flicker of empathy that he didn't fully understand. Almost impulsively, he took a step forward. It started with a polite, warm smile, one that Emma barely registered through her exhaustion. Then Daniel addressed Lily in a gentle tone, kneeling just enough to meet the child's line of sight. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it was enough to distract Lily for a second. She paused her whimper, curious about this stranger who was attempting to meet her gaze. "Hi there, little one," Daniel said quietly. "Airports can be scary sometimes, huh?" Emma looked up, startled. She didn't expect a stranger, much less someone who radiated this kind of self-assured confidence, to take the time to comfort her toddler. She opened her mouth to speak but hesitated, uncertain. Daniel introduced himself softly, holding out one hand as if giving Lily the chance to respond if she felt comfortable. Lily peered at the man's face, blinking away her tears. Something in his voice calmed her enough to pause her crying, at least for the moment. Emma forced a polite smile, though her nerves were on edge. "Thank you," she whispered, hugging Lily closer. "She's just tired and everything's so loud right now." Daniel nodded sympathetically. "I get it. Delays like this can feel endless. I'm sorry you're stuck here so long with a toddler." Emma felt the weight of the day pressing on her. "It's okay," she said softly. "We've managed worse. But thank you for talking to her. I really appreciate it." Before Daniel could reply, Lily whimpered again, twisting around to bury her face in Emma's shoulder. The child's brief moment of calm was gone, replaced by the wave of frustration that toddlers can't help but express when they're beyond tired. Emma felt tears threatening to fill her own eyes. She was a single mother trying to keep it together. The exhaustion was more than physical. It was emotional, mental, the heaviness of always having to be strong without any support. Just then, a flight attendant approached with an apologetic smile, passing out meal vouchers. "We're sorry for the inconvenience," she said, handing one to Emma and then to Daniel. "Please use these at any of the open restaurants. We'll update you as soon as we have more information." The wave of disappointment from the crowd was clear, but Daniel studied Emma's expression as she stared at her meal voucher, likely tallying up the cost of an airport snack. He saw how her lower lip quivered as Lily's crying rose once again in pitch. Without overthinking, Daniel motioned to the row of coffee shops that remained open late. "Let's get you both something warm. Might help calm your nerves. I'll carry your bag if you'd like." Emma's first instinct was to refuse. She didn't want to be a burden, but Lily's meltdown was building, and the prospect of a quiet corner, maybe with a few snacks to bribe her into calmness, was too tempting. She let out a shaky exhale. "Actually, that might be helpful. Thank you." So, side by side, they made their way through the terminal, weaving past travelers who looked just as miserable. The overhead lights cast a harsh glow on the glossy floor. Eventually, they found a small eatery that was still open, though barely. Daniel used his voucher and insisted on paying the difference for anything extra Emma needed. She finally stopped protesting, partly because Lily's wails were attracting irritated stares from the line behind them. They claimed a small table off to the side. Emma settled Lily into a chair and offered her a small bag of crackers, hoping it would quiet her for a moment. The baby rubbed her eyes, blinking heavily in the fluorescent light. Emma realized with a pang that Lily should have been in bed hours ago. She was just about to thank Daniel again when he asked politely, "Do you travel alone a lot with her?" She tensed. The memory of how she ended up as a single parent threatened to rise to the surface. She willed herself to keep the conversation simple. "Yes," she admitted in a hushed tone. "It's just the two of us, most of the time." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. He stirred his coffee, glancing between Emma and Lily, who had quieted down, entranced by the new surroundings and the occasional beep of the cash register. A subtle curiosity formed in Daniel's gaze. Usually people asked more questions, especially about how Emma managed life on her own. But for some reason, he held back. Something in Emma's tired eyes told him to tread gently. Little did either of them know that this delayed flight was more than just an inconvenience. It was a crossroads of fate. The father Lily had never met sat mere inches away, unknowingly offering comfort to the daughter he'd never known existed. The universe sometimes weaves tricky tapestries, letting secrets linger until the moment they become unstoppable truths. For Emma, the chance kindness of a stranger felt like a respite from the burden she always carried. For Daniel, it was an inexplicable pull toward a child and mother he'd only just met. Neither realized that in just a few hours the strands of the past would unravel in ways that neither could have imagined. Back at the small airport cafe, the hum of the espresso machine underscored Daniel and Emma's hushed conversation. Lily, momentarily appeased by crackers and a sippy cup, blinked at the overhead lights. The tension of the delayed flight still weighed on everyone in the terminal, But for Emma, it wasn't just a matter of passing time anymore. She noticed the way Daniel seemed genuinely concerned about her situation. It was startling. People usually avoided tired mothers and crying toddlers as if they carried a contagion. But Daniel offered empathy and a cup of coffee. "Thanks again," Emma said softly, sipping from the warm drink he'd handed her. She couldn't recall the last time someone had been this considerate. "I promise I'm not usually this flustered. It's just been a really long day." Daniel managed a small smile. "No need to apologize. Travel's rough. And kids have their own timing, right?" His eyes flicked to Lily, who appeared to be fighting sleep, resisting as toddlers do even when they're desperate for rest. "She's precious, by the way. What's her name?" "Lily?" Emma replied, smiling down at her daughter. "She's the best thing that ever happened to me." Emma brushed a stray strand of hair behind her ear, reflecting for a second on how her life had changed in the 2 years since Lily's birth. Becoming a mother had filled her world with unimaginable love and 1,000 new challenges. She glanced at Daniel, curious about his easy confidence. He wore a designer suit and carried himself like someone who knew success. She guessed he was maybe early 30s, definitely well off, and probably used to a level of luxury that felt alien to her. She imagined he had a family waiting for him somewhere, or that he was married to someone equally impressive. "It's nice that you took a moment to help," she ventured, feeling slightly awkward. "Most people would have put their headphones on and pretended not to see us." Daniel shrugged. "I've flown enough to know how stressful these delays can be, especially if you're caring for a little one. Everyone deserves a breather." Emma offered a grateful nod. "I'm lucky you were around." Behind them, announcements periodically broke through the static. The airline was still scrambling for a new departure time, fueling more anger and impatience among the crowd. Over by the large windows, a handful of passengers tapped their feet, repeatedly checking the darkened runway. Emma was relieved she wasn't over there, fighting to hush Lily under exasperated stares. Here, at least, she had a few moments of quiet. Daniel's phone buzzed on the table. He picked it up with a frown, reading a string of urgent messages. Emma couldn't help but notice the lines of worry crossing his brow. After a moment, he sighed. "Work never stops, does it?" he murmured half to himself. "Seems our latest negotiation went south. My board wants an update. They're expecting me to salvage the situation." "You run a company, right?" Emma asked hesitantly, remembering the brief phone conversation she'd overheard. He nodded. "Yeah, a tech firm. We specialize in e-commerce solutions. Lots of behind-the-scenes software that makes online transactions seamless." He took another quick glance at his phone, then slipped it back into his jacket. "I was coming back from a conference to try to finalize a partnership. Didn't exactly go as planned." Emma could hear the subdued frustration in his voice, a different type of exasperation than her own, but no less valid. "I hope it works out," she offered sincerely. "Dealing with business stuff must be complicated." He let out a breathy chuckle. "You have no idea. One minute you're close to a breakthrough, the next minute you're stuck in an airport at midnight with nothing locked in. Meanwhile, your investors want results." Emma gave him a sympathetic look. "Tell me about it. I'm job hunting, and even that feels daunting. I mean, I can't imagine the stress of being responsible for an entire company, but finding stable work isn't easy either, especially with Lily. This trip was supposed to set us up with a new opportunity, but if I don't show up soon..." She caught herself. It wasn't like her to share so openly with a stranger, but something about Daniel's calm presence loosened the knot of her usual guardedness. "Anyway, life's complicated," she finished, avoiding his eyes as she cleared her throat. Daniel studied her quietly. He noticed the faint shadows under her eyes and the worry woven into each of her words. She was just trying to get by, traveling alone with a toddler, no partner in sight. The thought pricked at something deep in him. Lily squirmed in her chair, letting out a soft wail. Emma reached to rub her back. "Shh, sweet girl. "It's okay," she cooed. The little one rested her head against her mom's arm, finally succumbing to heavy eyelids. Emma gently lifted her up, balancing Lily on her lap so the child could at least be horizontal. Even though Lily was so small, the weight of holding her all day had left Emma's arms numb with fatigue. "Maybe she'll sleep," Daniel murmured. Sometimes the airport noise becomes background hum, like a lullaby of chaos. His voice carried a hint of a smile, but his eyes were full of genuine concern. Emma let out a tired laugh. "I sure hope so." She gently rocked Lily. The toddler's breathing slowed into an uneven doze, broken now and then by a shuddering sigh. A new wave of announcements rattled overhead. The flight agent explained that the plane would need further mechanical checks, pushing departure back another hour at least. Disappointment swept through the crowd once more. Daniel shook his head at the overhead speakers, tension flexing in his jaw. "Another hour," he muttered. "I can't believe it. My hotel reservation is basically out the window, and no telling if we'll even get out tonight." He exhaled, rubbed the back of his neck. "Not that it's your problem. I'm just venting." Emma gave him a faint smile of understanding. "I get it. It's frustrating. This is the last thing either of us needs." Silence settled between them for a moment, companionable rather than awkward. Emma let her gaze drift around the cafe. Other weary travelers scrolling aimlessly through their phones, a family with 2 older kids building a fort out of suitcases, an elderly couple sipping tea with resigned patience. Each had their own story. Each felt the ripple effects of the delay. But for Emma, it felt surreal to be offered so much kindness from a man she'd only just met. She opened her mouth to say something when Lily stirred, whining softly and reaching out for Emma's hair. Daniel leaned in, his tone gentle. "Do you mind if I try something?" He pulled his phone out, tapped it a few times, and a soft lullaby began to play. Lily's bleary eyes opened at the unfamiliar melody. There was hesitation, then surprise, and finally a slow blinking acceptance as the peaceful tune washed over her. That's clever," Emma said quietly, gratitude shining in her eyes. He smiled. "I have a niece who's a bit older than Lily. This was her favorite. Sometimes music can distract them from everything else." Emma nodded, rocking Lily gently to the quiet sound coming from Daniel's phone. Gradually, the tension in Lily's tiny body ebbed. Within a few minutes, she was fully asleep, lips parted in soft, rhythmic breathing. "Thank you," Emma whispered, like someone who'd been handed a precious gift. "You have no idea how much of a relief this is." "It's nothing," Daniel said modestly, but the sincerity in Emma's expression told him it wasn't nothing at all. In that moment, he felt a faint pang in his chest, something like nostalgia, but also regret. He wondered why. Maybe it was the reminder of his niece, or maybe, on a deeper level he couldn't quite articulate, it was a reminder of something missing in his own life. He shifted in his seat, clearing his throat softly. "So where's home for you?" Emma hesitated, adjusting Lily in her arms. I used to live in a small town, but I'm moving. I'm trying to settle in a place with better job options. Honestly, I'd take just about any position that pays enough to support Lily and me. My friend told me about an opening at her workplace, so I flew out for the interview." She chewed her lip. "It's so nerve-wracking. I don't have a lot of family support, so everything depends on me. If I don't make this job work—" Her voice trailed off, but the implication was clear. There was no plan B. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "That's a lot of pressure. But from what I can see, you're strong. You'll make it." A flicker of gratitude and sadness passed through Emma's eyes. "I appreciate the vote of confidence. I really do." She glanced at Lily's sleeping face. "She deserves a good life. She didn't ask to be brought into complicated circumstances." Daniel inhaled slowly, as if absorbing her words on a deeper level. He thought about all the privileges he'd had, the stable childhood, the scholarships, the mentors who opened doors for him. And here was Emma, navigating life's obstacles largely on her own, with a toddler in tow. If there's ever anything I can help with, within reason, don't hesitate to ask, he found himself saying, even though it wasn't like him to make such open-ended offers. But the words felt right. Emma's cheeks flushed slightly. You're very kind, but you've done enough. Let's just hope this flight eventually happens so both of us can get on with our lives. As they lapsed into a peaceful silence, Lily breathing softly in Emma's arms, neither could guess how closely intertwined their lives actually were. Hidden in Lily's soft features, in the shape of her eyes and the curve of her smile, was a mirror to Daniel's own reflection, a mirror he hadn't yet recognized. A subtle tension hummed around them as if the cosmos were holding its breath. Answers hovered just beyond the threshold of recognition, and in that fragile moment, delayed planes and quiet lullabies felt like preludes to a revelation neither Daniel nor Emma expected, and one that would alter their lives forever. When the loudspeaker finally crackled to life with an update advising passengers to board the delayed flight, relief rippled through the waiting area. As Emma tucked her carry-on under her arm, Lily still asleep on her shoulder, she shot Daniel a grateful glance. His presence had been an unforeseen comfort, and she was almost sorry the wait was over. At the same time, the promise of finally getting back in the air was too good to ignore. "Looks like it's time," Daniel said, moving to stand next to Emma. He reached out as if to help with her bag before pausing awkwardly. She was carrying Lily, plus a small bag looped over her forearm, and her larger carry-on threatened to slip from her grip. Daniel gently took the heavier case from her without waiting for permission. "You've got your hands full," he added matter-of-factly. Emma was too tired to protest. She just gave a half-smile, her eyes on Lily's tousled hair. The toddler slept through the movement, nuzzling against Emma's neck. Together, they merged into the line forming near the gate. The mood around them was still tense. Delayed travelers always seemed to hover between annoyance and exhaustion, but the hush was punctuated by occasional shrugs of relief that, at last, they could board. They scanned their tickets. For a fleeting moment, Emma felt the usual wave of anxiety she got whenever she traveled alone with Lily. But Daniel stayed close, as though some silent vow made him want to see them settled before dealing with his own seat. The flight attendant, a petite woman with a practiced smile, directed Emma to her assigned row. She paused, noticing Lily's slight stirring. "Ma'am, do you need any assistance? We can stow your bag or help you." "I can do it," Daniel interjected lightly, hoisting Emma's carry-on into the overhead compartment. "She's got her daughter." Emma whispered a thank you, her cheeks warming. Lily's eyes blinked open as Emma eased into the window seat, the child's face contorting into a half-sleepy protest. Before Lily could wind up to a full cry, Daniel was there, rummaging in Emma's diaper bag to produce a small plush toy. It was quick thinking, a gesture that made Lily curious instead of distressed. She stared wide-eyed at the stuffed animal before letting out a content sigh, nestling back into Emma's arms. Daniel lingered for a second, eyes drifting from Lily's small fists to the exhaustion etched in Emma's expression. There was a strange ache in his chest that he couldn't place, some primal instinct to protect. But with a short exhale, he slid out of the row, giving them space. "Thank you," Emma said again, more quietly, her voice barely above the engine hum. She was out of words to express how much he'd helped. He nodded, eyes kind, before moving down the aisle in search of his own seat. The plane was relatively small and seats were in short supply. Daniel ended up a mere row behind Emma, separated by the narrow aisle. He stored his briefcase overhead, then sank into the seat, rubbing a hand across his forehead. Half of him wanted to settle in, close his eyes and forget about the undone business negotiations. but his mind wouldn't quiet. Instead, an unshakable curiosity about Emma's situation drifted through his thoughts. He couldn't figure out why it mattered so much. They were just strangers in transit, right? Meanwhile, Emma did her best to calm Lily in the cramped quarters of the window seat. The toddler fussed for a moment, adjusting to the new environment, then relaxed against her mom's chest. Emma gave her a small sip from a bottle, whispering a lullaby just under the white noise of the plane's air vents. For a moment, Emma tried to recall the last time she'd felt anything resembling this level of relief or safety. Maybe it was the knowledge that they were one step closer to home, or maybe it was Daniel's unexpected kindness that made her feel less alone, less haunted by the question marks in her life. She settled Lily into her lap, mind drifting back in time. Unbidden memories of a past romance flaring up, stirring that old ache in her heart. She thought she'd left all that behind. And she had. Yet, every so often, an echo of regret and wonder managed to resurface. It reminded her of the night Lily was conceived, a whirlwind of emotion tangled in a complicated relationship with someone Emma had believed to be her forever. But that hope had shattered before Lily's first heartbeat was confirmed. The overhead lights dimmed, and the flight attendants moved down the aisle to do final checks. Emma's seatbelt was fastened and she smoothed a hand over Lily's messy curls. She closed her eyes, trying not to dwell on the old heartbreak that still stung. She wondered if that man ever thought of her, or if she was just a chapter he'd turned the page on. Mostly, she pushed the thought away. Lily was her focus, her reason. Dwelling on a father who hadn't even known she was pregnant did no good. It was Emma's choice not to tell him after all. A mixture of guilt and fierce independence had shaped that decision. She'd chosen to raise Lily on her own, to spare both of them a more complicated heartbreak. Unaware of Emma's tumultuous memories, Daniel scrolled absent-mindedly through his phone, trying to distract himself from the swirl of business crisis. He typed a hurried email to his senior staff, explaining he was still in transit and that he'd schedule a call once he landed. Then he powered off the phone as the cabin crew made the final announcement for takeoff. No matter how high up the corporate ladder he was, Daniel was just another passenger now, forced to submit to airplane mode. The engines roared, and the jet taxied onto the runway. Emma braced Lily as gently as she could, a practiced move for a mother used to flights. She offered Lily a small pacifier for the altitude change. The toddler stirred but remained calm. Across the aisle, an elderly man coughed, then fumbled for gum. Behind them, a faint beep came from Daniel's row as another passenger tried to send off a last text before the plane lifted. And lift it did, rolling forward faster, vibrations intensifying until suddenly the earth fell away beneath them. The flight gained altitude, lights of the city below shrinking into a pattern of luminescent dots. Emma peered out the window, Lily's reflection faintly visible against the dark sky. The toddler was fully asleep now, face pressed to Emma's shirt, leaving a small patch of drool in her dreamlike contentment. Once the plane leveled off, the cabin lights brightened marginally. Emma pressed her head back against the seat, letting out a long exhale. The flight would be a couple of hours at most, enough time to rest if Lily stayed asleep. But the tension in Emma's shoulders wouldn't fully dissipate. She caught herself glancing over her shoulder, glimpsing Daniel behind her. He was leaning back, eyes closed, maybe trying to grab some rest. She couldn't tell if he was asleep or just pensive. She turned back and closed her own eyes. Briefly, Emma let herself daydream. What if her life had followed a different path? She pictured Lily with a father in the picture, a stable family. Would Lily's nights be filled with bedtime stories from two parents, a gentle routine instead of the chaos of single motherhood? Emma's heart clenched. It was painful to imagine a reality that might never exist. A sudden drop of altitude snapped her out of the daydream, mild turbulence. Emma reflexively tightened her hold on Lily, scanning to see if the toddler had awakened. She hadn't. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, advising everyone to remain seated with seatbelts fastened until the small patch of turbulence passed. Across the aisle, the elderly man heaved a weary sigh. Emma shot him a sympathetic look, though her gaze flicked once again to Daniel. He opened his eyes at the slight jolt, meeting Emma's glance by coincidence. Their eyes connected. She offered a tight smile, raising a brow as if to say, "Turbulence. Fun, right?" He returned her look with a knowing half-smile. Then he mouthed, "You okay?" silently over the seat. Emma nodded, giving a quick thumbs up. She mouthed back, "We're fine," feeling oddly comforted by the brief exchange. Seconds later, the turbulence lessened, and the plane stabilized. A flight attendant started rolling a small cart down the aisle offering drinks. Emma declined, opting instead to keep Lily snug in her arms. She decided to close her eyes again, try to rest, but her mind was persistent, nibbling on half-buried regrets, replaying the last couple of hours, the gentle kindness from a man she didn't know. Exhaustion warred with reflection in her body. She eventually drifted off in uneasy sleep, lulled by the hum of the aircraft and the small weight of Lily pressed to her chest. Behind her, Daniel gazed at the back of her seat for a long moment before leaning his head against the window. A fleeting sense of familiarity had touched him, something about Emma's eyes and the shape of Lily's nose, but it was lost in the swirl of everything else. His business, the negotiations, the odd sense of responsibility he felt toward these strangers. He told himself to shut off that voice of curiosity and sleep. He didn't yet know that the life-changing answers he might have spent years seeking were right there, dozing a row ahead of him with a toddler's small hand curled around her mother's sleeve. And Emma, so certain that her past was better left behind, couldn't guess that the father she'd never told was less than 3 feet away, separated by so much more than an airplane aisle. Dull overhead lights and the faint scent of airline coffee marked the shift from late night to the edge of dawn, somewhere high above the clouds. The in-flight monitors showed that the plane was making steady progress toward its destination, but time had little meaning to those half asleep in their cramped seats. Emma woke with a start. She felt Lily stirring, and for a second it was hard to remember exactly where they were. The plane, yes, the delayed flight. Her back throbbed from sleeping in an awkward position. Lily, still curled in her arms, let out a small, sleepy whine but didn't fully wake. Emma scanned the dim cabin, spotted the silhouettes of a few flight attendants quietly checking overhead compartments, and realized that some hours must have passed. Dawn was creeping up on them, the horizon outside the window tinted with the faintest pink. She became aware of a presence next to her. The passenger in the aisle seat, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile, offered a quick wave as Emma stirred. "She slept well," the woman whispered, nodding at Lily. "You both did." Emma managed a soft, "Thanks," easing Lily upright to see if a diaper change or a sip of water might keep the toddler content. Lily's eyelids fluttered, then closed again, her head rolling into Emma's shoulder. A pang of love shot through Emma's heart. No matter how tired or stressed she was, just the sight of Lily's small face could fill her chest with warmth. A few rows behind, Daniel was awake too. He'd never managed more than a brief nap. His mind kept shifting between the looming business crisis and the mental image of Emma, struggling with Lily yet soldiering on with composure. He scrolled through his phone again, forgetting momentarily that the device still had to stay in airplane mode. The anxious swirl in his stomach reminded him that once they landed, he would be thrown back into the high-stakes tension of corporate deals. Somehow, that prospect felt heavier than it normally did. He glanced at his watch and sighed. Another hour, maybe less, until they touched down. He tried to shut his eyes, but his gaze kept drifting to the top of Emma's seat just a row ahead. When one of the flight attendants stopped by, Daniel asked for a cup of water, politely turning down the coffee she offered. Caffeine at this hour would only make him more restless. The plane rattled slightly, hitting a mild patch of turbulence. Emma felt Lily stir again, so she rummaged quietly in the seat back pocket for a coloring book she'd packed. It was a small one with bright pictures. If Lily fully woke up, it might keep her entertained. But Lily just peeked at the pages, eyes only half open, then dozed back off. Emma smiled. Sometimes Lily's biggest meltdown triggers happened in these final stretches of a flight, so any extra minutes of sleep was a blessing. Over the cabin speakers, a polite ding preceded the captain's calm announcement. They'd be starting initial descent soon. Flight attendants would begin collecting any trash. The seatbelt sign wouldn't come on just yet, but everyone was advised to prepare. Emma leaned back, letting out the smallest sigh of relief. It meant the journey was nearly over. Soon enough, they'd be on the ground. And from there, well, she had to figure out the next steps of her life. But that was a problem for later. On cue, Lily's eyes popped open, as if she sensed something was about to happen. She let out a grumpy, "Ma," confused to find herself in a cramped seat with neon safety cards in front of her. Emma kissed the top of her head. "It's okay, baby girl," she murmured. "We're almost there." She offered Lily the coloring book again, flipping to a page with silly animals. This time Lily was more awake, pressing her small hand against the paper. The middle-aged woman beside Emma reached into her own carry-on, pulling out a pack of crayons. "She can use these," the woman whispered with a warm smile. "I brought them for my grandchild, but I'm sure he won't mind sharing." Emma's heart swelled with gratitude. "That's so kind of you, thank you," she responded softly. Lily immediately perked up at the colored crayons and began scribbling in that chaotic but endearing toddler style. Emma watched, half expecting Lily to toss the crayons or attempt to eat them, but for the moment it worked. The meltdown she'd dreaded didn't arrive. Meanwhile, Daniel unbuckled his belt for a moment and stood up, stretching his stiff legs. He moved quietly down the aisle toward the restroom at the back, offering polite nods to other passengers. The flight felt subdued. Some were still dozing, others yawning with the hush of pre-landing routine. On his way back, Daniel glanced across the seats, catching a glimpse of Emma showing Lily how to hold a purple crayon. Lily made a delighted squeal, stamping the purple color across a giraffe outline. He paused just behind Emma's row, smiling involuntarily at the scene. Emma, noticing the presence behind her, turned her head, meeting Daniel's gaze. "Hey," she whispered, "she just woke up. She's in a pretty good mood so far." Pride colored Emma's voice, because meltdown-free landings with a toddler were a rare gift. Daniel nodded. "That's great. Did you sleep at all?" "A little," she admitted. "Maybe not as much as I'd like, but enough." "What about you?" Daniel shrugged. "Some. It's hard to turn off my mind. Work stuff." He didn't elaborate, but Emma could guess. She offered him a sympathetic smile. From her seat, Lily noticed Daniel and let out a curious chirp, holding out the purple crayon as if to say, "Hey, look what I have." Daniel blinked, then gently accepted the crayon from her small hand, pretending to admire it. "Wow, purple! One of my favorite colors." Lily giggled in response. He returned the crayon, and Lily happily turned back to the coloring page. The passenger behind them cleared his throat, politely signaling that Daniel was blocking the aisle. Feeling a bit sheepish, Daniel moved aside. "I'll let you two finish up. See you when we land." Then he slipped back into his seat, heart unexpectedly lighter than before. Emma returned her attention to Lily. It felt surreal how comfortable the child was around Daniel, even though it was such a short acquaintance. Emma tried to shrug it off. Maybe Lily was just in a rare friendly toddler phase, and Daniel, well, some people were just naturally good with kids. Still, the coincidence of it all pricked at her mind. A short while later, the pilot announced their final descent. The seatbelt sign dinged on. The flight attendants hurried down the aisle securing trays and reminding everyone to put seats upright. Emma helped Lily store the crayons, and the kind passenger beside them took back the box with a grateful but quiet nod. Lily wriggled in excitement, pressing her face to the window to catch glimpses of the shrinking clouds. Emma looped an arm around her to keep her safe and calm. The ground came into clearer view, a sprawl of city lights, highways, and tall buildings. It was that moment of anticipation Emma usually felt on flights, especially those that signaled a new phase in her life. This time, that anticipation mingled with the memory of Daniel's kindness. She thought about turning around to mouth "thank you" one last time, but the final approach kept her pinned to her seat, with Lily eager to see everything outside. The landing itself was smoother than expected. The wheels touched the runway with barely a jolt. Emma felt Lily tense at the sudden roar of reverse thrust, but the child didn't cry. She only gave a startled squeak, clinging to her mother's arm. Within minutes, the plane was taxiing to the gate, the overhead compartments rattling softly. A wave of relief spread among the passengers. After all the delays, they were finally here. As they came to a stop and the seatbelt sign blinked off, the typical chaos ensued. People stood immediately, crowding the aisle, even though the doors weren't open yet. Emma stayed seated. It was easier to let the rush pass, especially with a toddler. No sense trying to stand in the crush of bodies. She glanced back and caught Daniel's eye again. He gestured as if to say, "I'll help with the bag." She nodded. Once the line started moving, Emma carefully stood with Lily perched on her hip. Daniel stepped out of his row, lifted Emma's carry-on from the overhead bin, then handed it off to her. The passenger behind him huffed impatiently, clearly in a hurry to exit. Daniel ignored it, focusing instead on making sure Emma and Lily had room to move. By the time they filed off the plane and into the jet bridge, Lily was wide awake, cooing with excitement at the new bustle of the airport. Emma steadied the child while juggling her bag. Once they emerged into the terminal, Emma let out a breath, scanning for signs to the baggage claim. Daniel came up beside her. "You have a connection, or is this your final stop?" "It's our stop," Emma replied. "I need to pick up a suitcase at baggage claim." He nodded. "Same here." They both fell into step, heading toward the signs that directed them along a corridor toward arrivals. The sun had fully risen, illuminating the floor-to-ceiling windows. Sleepy passengers from their flight trudged forward, some reuniting with family or scanning gate information boards for connecting flights. As they rode the escalator down, Lily turned in Emma's arms and reached for Daniel's collar, as if wanting to hold on to him. Emma's cheeks went pink. She gently shifted Lily back. "You're so silly," she murmured to her daughter. Daniel just chuckled. "Seems like she's already my friend." Then his expression turned more earnest. "Emma, can I at least walk you to baggage claim? If you're not in a rush, I'd like to help. You could probably use a free hand." Emma hesitated, her pride flickering. Yet she felt such fatigue, and the help did sound nice. "All right," she finally agreed. "Thank you." They reached the baggage carousel, where the belt had just started rolling with a clunk. Passengers lined up, squinting for their suitcases. Emma swayed with Lily, who was once again showing signs of fussiness. The little girl needed food, or a stable place to nap, or both. Daniel stood at the carousel's edge, scanning the suitcases as they started appearing. A wave of travelers grabbed their luggage and dispersed. Emma spotted her battered blue suitcase approaching, but it was heavy and awkward. Before she could shift Lily to one side, Daniel stepped forward. He snatched the suitcase easily from the belt, pulling it upright on its wheels. "This one, right?" "Yes, that's mine," Emma confirmed, a grateful smile tugging at her lips. "Thanks again." "Really?" He inclined his head. "No problem. Mine hasn't shown up yet." A moment later, a sleek black suitcase rounded the carousel. Daniel retrieved it and set it beside Emma's. Then came a beat of silence as the crowd thinned. Emma looked around, uncertain. She was about to say some polite goodbye, to tell him thanks once more, and let him get on his way. But Daniel cleared his throat softly. "Look, you said you don't have a lot of support here. Do you have a ride? Or somewhere to go?" Emma bit her lip. A friend was supposed to pick us up, but with all these delays, I'm not sure she's still available. My phone's almost dead, so I need to find a charger. She glanced at Lily, who was rubbing her eyes. We might just grab a taxi if my friend can't come. Daniel nodded. If you don't mind waiting a minute, I could help you check on that. And if she's not able to pick you up, I can call a car service. I have an account with a local provider. At least let me get you and Lily somewhere safe and comfortable. Emma hesitated again, a swirl of conflicting emotions. Normally, she wouldn't want to rely on a stranger, especially a stranger who so clearly moved in a different social sphere. But then she noticed the fatigue etched in Lily's puffy face, the ache in her own bones. She weighed her reservations against the immediate need for help. "Okay," she said, her voice soft yet resolute. "All right, that's incredibly generous of you. I really appreciate it." Daniel exhaled as if relieved. "No worries. Let's find a seat and sort things out." They moved to a quieter corner near an empty row of chairs by an ATM. Emma retrieved her phone charger, found an outlet, and sat down with Lily in her lap, plugging in. The toddler squirmed, wanting to explore, so Daniel knelt and offered Lily his keychain to jingle, something to keep her distracted in the meantime. For a moment, it felt almost normal, like a small, improvised family moment. Emma typed a quick text to her friend. "Landed safely? Big delay, you around?" But there was no immediate reply. She sighed, glancing up at Daniel. He lifted his phone. "I'll order a car service once you confirm you need it." Emma nodded, feeling a flutter in her stomach. Gratitude, exhaustion, and something else. Some nagging sense that the bond forming here was bigger than a mere flight. She brushed it aside, telling herself she was just relieved to have met a kind stranger. On the phone screen, no new messages came in. Emma rechecked the time, realizing how late it was. Likely her friend had gone to work or was still asleep. She felt the final traces of hesitation melt away, replaced by practicality. "Well," she said quietly, "I guess that settles it." She offered a small smile. "If your offer still stands, we'd be glad for the ride." Daniel gave a confident nod, already tapping away. "Of course. Let's get you two somewhere you can rest." Lily cooed, holding the keychain to her chest, and Emma exhaled. Little did she know that the next step would not just be a simple drive through the city, but a journey toward truths she'd locked away. The father she never meant to burden, the past she thought she'd escaped. And Daniel, caught in that same current, stood on the verge of discovering that his life was about to be irrevocably altered by the very child tugging at his keychain. The busy energy of the arrivals terminal seemed to magnify once they stepped outside. Sunlight glared off the rows of vehicles and people bustled back and forth. Emma shielded Lily's face from the bright light, feeling the spring of warm air against her own cheeks. She hadn't expected it to be quite so sunny this early. Being cooped up in airports and airplanes through the night had blurred her sense of time. Daniel led them to a spot near the curb, away from the constant rush of luggage carts. He pointed to a small bench shaded by a potted palm. "We can wait here until the car arrives," he said, tapping at his phone's screen. "They should be here in a few minutes." Emma nodded, grateful for a chance to set down her luggage. She balanced Lily on her hip, stepping to the side so she could lean the blue suitcase against the bench. A wave of fatigue washed over her again. Lily had begun to rub her eyes, and Emma wondered just how cranky her daughter might get before they could find a quiet place to rest. An airport security guard ambled by, eyeing the line of cars pulling up. The guard gave Emma and Daniel a quick, friendly nod. Nearby, a family of 4 was trying to sort out a confusion about their rental car pickup. The father scrolled through his phone, looking as perplexed as Emma had felt earlier. Daniel noticed her heavy-lidded expression and tried to make conversation. "So, about that friend, did she text you back at all?" Emma pulled out her phone, glancing at the lock screen. "No, not yet. It's possible she's either in a meeting or still asleep. She's got 2 jobs, so her schedule's kind of unpredictable. Daniel nodded sympathetically. Well, no worries. The car should be here in... He paused, looking at the app, then pointed. Looks like that's our driver. A sleek black sedan eased into the curb lane. The driver, wearing a tidy uniform, stepped out to confirm Daniel's name on a small tablet. Good morning, the driver said politely. Welcome, Mr. Grant. Can I help you with your luggage? It startled Emma for a second to realize she still didn't know Daniel's surname, Grant. Somehow she hadn't asked, and he hadn't volunteered. Their entire interaction felt more personal than formal introductions would allow, yet there were still so many basic things they didn't know about each other. She brushed aside the odd pang of curiosity, shifting Lily and offering a polite smile at the driver. Daniel took charge, helping load Emma's suitcase into the trunk while the driver carefully placed Daniel's black bag next to it. Emma stepped back to let them work, rocking Lily gently. Once the bags were secured, Daniel opened the rear passenger door. Emma slid in, positioning Lily on her lap so the seatbelt could still be fastened. The interior smelled of fresh leather. Lily blinked, wide-eyed, her small fingers exploring the seat's texture. For a fleeting second, Emma felt self-conscious, as if she'd stepped into a world that wasn't hers, a comfortable, elegant space she couldn't afford. She tugged gently at Lily's shirt, making sure it covered her tummy, aware of how disheveled she felt after the long flight. Daniel settled into the front seat so Emma could have space in the back. The driver checked the address Daniel had provided. Emma realized she hadn't even thought about that detail. Where exactly was Daniel taking them? She leaned forward slightly. I should probably give you my friend's address. If she's not home, we can wait near her place, or maybe just a motel nearby. Emma trailed off, a flicker of nervousness in her tone. She dreaded paying for a motel out of pocket, but Lily needed rest. She might not have a choice. Daniel twisted around, meeting her gaze over the seat. I booked a business suite at the Westin Hotel downtown. I was supposed to check in last night, but the delay changed my plans. I thought, maybe we could see if they have a day rate or an extra room, at least until you hear from your friend, or I can drop you at a motel if you prefer. Emma's cheeks warmed. Oh, that's... She hesitated, eyes drifting to Lily. The child was yawning, eyelids drooping with the undeniable need for more sleep. She felt a ripple of guilt at imposing any further on Daniel. But the practical side of her acknowledged that Lily's well-being came first. If the Westin was near the city center, that might also mean easy access to public transportation or ride shares once she was ready to leave. Let's just see, she finally murmured. If it's too expensive, we can find somewhere else, but I appreciate the help. Daniel nodded, as if it were settled. The driver pulled away from the curb, merging into the traffic that ringed the airport. Engines hummed, and the city skyline began to emerge from behind tall highways and ramps. Morning light glinted off glass buildings. Emma stared out the window, mind half drifting. She realized she was heading into a city she barely knew, guided by a man she'd just met. It should have felt dangerous, yet Daniel's presence so far had been nothing but reassuring. You okay back there? Daniel asked, sensing her silence. Emma exhaled softly. Yeah, just overwhelmed, I guess. It's been a whirlwind of a night. A gentle smile curved his lips. I get it. And I'm sorry if I'm pushing solutions at you. Force of habit. My job involves a lot of problem solving. She actually laughed at that, a quiet chuckle that vibrated through her tired body. No need to apologize. Problem solving is exactly what I need right now. Lily let out a soft sniffle, nestling closer to Emma. The tension in Emma's shoulders eased another fraction, grateful that Lily could drift off again, at least for the short ride. The car weaved onto the highway and the view of the city expanded. Emma caught glimpses of tall skyscrapers, neon billboards, and the swirl of morning commuters. It was a stark contrast to the quiet, small-town life she used to know. But the swirl of nerves in her stomach wasn't entirely unwelcome. There was a hint of excitement there, too. A new place meant new possibilities. Daniel kept half-turned, occasionally exchanging glances with Emma. Silence settled again, comfortable enough, accompanied by the rhythmic blink of the car's turn signal and the hum of the road. Eventually, the sedan exited onto a wide boulevard lined with tall office towers and sleek hotels. "There's the Westin," the driver announced. He steered skillfully into a circular driveway where uniformed attendants awaited. Emma's eyes flicked up at the ornate facade of the hotel. It was a sophisticated structure, all glass and polished stone. Her heart sank a little, anticipating how pricey it might be. The driver parked near a side entrance. Daniel thanked him, stepping out to speak with the staff while another attendant swiftly opened Emma's door. Uncertain, Emma slid out, adjusting Lily on her hip. This was definitely a different world from the budget motels she'd frequented before. The uniformed attendant smiled politely, as if accustomed to guests stepping out of high-end cars with sleeping children in their arms. Emma tried not to gawk at the marble flooring visible through the entrance. Daniel returned, gesturing for Emma to follow. "Let's head inside. I'll talk to the front desk about availability." Relief and nerves battled in Emma's chest. She stepped carefully through the sliding doors, the quiet hush of the hotel lobby embracing them. There were plush chairs, tall planters with exotic greenery, and a faint scent of lemongrass in the air. At this hour, only a few guests lingered around, sipping coffee or tapping laptops. One of the receptionists recognized Daniel, or at least recognized his membership in the hotel's loyalty program. She greeted him by name. "Mr. Grant, welcome," then eyed Emma and Lily with a discreet, professional curiosity. Daniel explained their predicament, inquiring if there was any immediate room available or even a day-use option for Emma. The receptionist clicked through her system, checking availability. While Daniel handled the details, Emma sat down on a nearby sofa, hooking an arm around Lily's waist to keep her stable. She allowed herself a moment to breathe in the quiet of the lobby. Despite her initial reservations, it was comforting to be somewhere that felt calm, safe, a far cry from the chaos of the airport. Daniel returned with a room key card in hand, a small grin of success. "They had a cancellation, so there's an extra room. I went ahead and used some of my points. It's no big deal. The manager said you can stay at least through the night if you want." Her eyes went wide with gratitude and something that bordered on discomfort at the generosity. "Daniel, are you sure? That's a lot, and I can't just let you—" He raised a reassuring hand. "Please, don't worry about it. I have more points than I'll ever use traveling all the time for business. Let it be my treat. Besides, I'll feel better knowing you and Lily can rest properly. I'll be around too, so if you need anything, it's easy." Emma's protest died on her lips. She saw no malice or hidden motive in his expression, only genuine concern. Lily whimpered softly, and Emma realized the toddler's meltdown was imminent. "Thank you," Emma said, voice thick. "I owe you more than I can say." Daniel nodded, stepping aside to allow the bellhop to gather Emma's luggage. "Ready to head up?" They took the elevator to the 11th floor, accompanied by the bellhop. Lily dozed again, lulled by the hush of the polished interior. As the elevator rose, Emma noticed Daniel's reflection in the mirrored walls. His eyes had that same faint shadow of tiredness she saw in her own. They were both running on empty. The elevator bell chimed. They exited into a softly lit hallway, plush carpet muffling their footsteps. The bellhop opened the door to a cozy suite with tasteful modern decor, 2 large beds, a small sitting area, and an expansive window overlooking the city. Morning light streamed through sheer curtains. Emma instinctively walked over to the window, drawn by the view of bustling streets below. Lily stirred in her arms, half waking, then falling back to sleep. "Wow, this is beautiful," Emma whispered. The bellhop set down her suitcase, politely pointed out the closet and bathroom. Daniel tipped him, murmuring his thanks. Once the door closed, Emma glanced around, still a bit overwhelmed. "Daniel, really, I can't say it enough. This is such a relief. We didn't have anywhere else to go." "It's okay," he repeated gently. He stepped further into the room, gaze flicking from Lily's dozing face to Emma's expression. "Get comfortable. You can let Lily rest on the bed. My own room is just down the hall. If you need anything, I'll give you my number." Emma set Lily carefully on the nearest bed, propping a pillow beside her. The toddler rolled onto her side with a tiny sigh, one hand curled around the plush toy from earlier. Emma straightened and faced Daniel, arms crossing over her chest in a gesture that mingled gratitude with lingering awkwardness. "I don't want to keep you from your schedule," she began. "I know you have business to handle." He nodded. "Yes, I've got some calls to make, but no rush. My next actual meeting is this afternoon. I'll probably just head down for coffee, answer emails, try to salvage that negotiation I mentioned." His gaze lingered on Emma for a beat, a subtle concern etched in his features. "Do you have everything you need? I can order room service or—" She shook her head gently. "We'll be okay. I might doze off with Lily for a bit." The thought of a quiet nap in a real bed made her entire body ache with relief. Daniel handed her a small slip of paper with his personal number scribbled on it. "In case you need me," he said. Then, hesitation flickered across his face as if he wanted to say more, but instead he offered a slight smile. "Welcome to the city, Emma. I hope this can be a fresh start for you both." She swallowed hard, nodding. A wave of emotion rose in her chest, too complex to put into words. "Thank you. I really appreciate everything you've done." With one last glance at the sleeping Lily, Daniel quietly excused himself, shutting the door behind him. Emma stood in the center of the suite for a moment, letting the silence wrap around her. She remembered all the times she'd pictured traveling with Lily, how precarious it could be, how lonely, and yet here she found a gentle harbor in the form of a stranger named Daniel Grant, a man whose kindness seemed limitless. Setting the phone with his number on the side table, Emma moved to the bed and sank down beside Lily, the plush mattress enveloping them. She ran a hand through her daughter's hair, marveling at how quickly life could twist into new shapes. She pushed away the lingering suspicion that something deeper connected her to Daniel, something more than this happenstance. Maybe it was just that she'd rarely encountered pure kindness so unexpectedly. Either way, she told herself she'd repay him somehow. He might be a CEO with more resources than she could fathom, but Emma understood the value of gratitude. She let her eyes drift shut, lulled by the steady hum of the air conditioning and Lily's gentle breathing. In a room down the hall, Daniel typed on his laptop, trying to focus on business proposals, but every few minutes his mind wandered back to Emma. In less than a day, circumstances had thrown them together, and some part of him felt protective, invested in her well-being in a way he couldn't fully explain. He was a man of logic, used to data and decisions. But now, an unspoken pull tugged at him, a gravity that made him wonder if fate worked in ways beyond the realm of business deals and airline delays. For Emma, sleep came quickly, thick and dreamless. Outside, the city roared to life with morning traffic and ringing phones. But for a fleeting time, in a quiet hotel suite on the 11th floor, she and Lily found the rest they desperately needed, unaware of how many secrets hovered on the brink of discovery. The father Emma believed she'd never see again was less than a hallway away, battling the faint echoes of familiarity he couldn't name. The final reveal lay ahead, waiting for the perfect moment to upend everything. Hours passed in a gentle blur. Emma finally roused from sleep to the soft, uneven breaths of Lily at her side. For a moment, disorientation fluttered through her. It took a second to remember they were safe in a hotel room, not on a cramped airplane or in some bustling airport lounge. Warm midday light streamed through the curtains, hinting that she'd slept far longer than she intended. But the rest had been necessary, and she felt the difference in her bones. She propped herself on an elbow to check the time on her phone, nearly noon. A wave of relief washed through her. At least they wouldn't be stumbling around half awake for the rest of the day. Lily stirred, rolling onto her back, eyes fluttering open with a curious gaze that roamed the unfamiliar room. "Morning, baby," Emma murmured. She leaned in for a kiss on Lily's forehead. The toddler reached up, small fingers brushing her mother's cheek, then babbled something incomprehensible. Emma smiled gently. "You hungry, sweet girl?" Lily nodded in that drowsy, uncoordinated way toddlers do when they sense food is on offer. Emma carefully swung her legs off the bed, wincing at the mild stiffness in her back. She noticed a folded piece of paper on the nearby table where Daniel's scribbled phone number lay. Picking it up, she found he'd left an additional note beneath his number. "Emma, I didn't want to wake you. I'm in the business lounge on the 15th floor trying to get some work done. If you need anything, food, directions, anything at all, feel free to text me. There's a small cafe on the lobby level 2 open until late." Emma felt that tug of gratitude again. She brushed her fingers over the neat handwriting and exhaled slowly. The man's kindness continued to amaze her. She decided she wouldn't take it for granted. She'd repay him in some meaningful way, though she wasn't yet sure how. "Up, up!" Lily whined softly, stretching out her arms for Emma to pick her up. Scooping her toddler up, Emma ventured into the bathroom to freshen up. Splashes of cool water on her face felt like a small rebirth. She inspected her reflection, a bit pale from travel fatigue, hair tousled, but her eyes looked more alert than before. Lily clung to her side, curiously eyeing the large mirror. "All right," Emma whispered, combing down Lily's hair with her fingers. "Let's see if we can find you something to eat." Her phone buzzed as she stepped out of the bathroom. She glanced at the screen, hopeful it might be a message from her friend. Sure enough, there was a text. "Friend. Hey, just saw your message. Sorry about the delay. Crazy morning. I'm at work until 6 p.m. You okay?" Emma quickly replied, "Emma, we're okay. Managed to get a hotel for now. Let's catch up after you're done at 6. I'll let you know where we end up." Satisfied, she pocketed the phone. She wanted to see her friend eventually. She needed to figure out her next steps, including the job opportunity that was the main reason for this trip. But after the travel chaos, a few more hours in a stable place felt necessary. Besides, Lily needed real food. Emma rummaged through her suitcase to find fresh clothes for both of them. She changed Lily into a clean shirt with cartoon kittens on it, then pulled on a pair of jeans and a soft sweater for herself. Within 15 minutes, they were ready to face the day. Before heading out, Emma shot Daniel a quick text. "Emma." Text. "Hi, Daniel. Thank you for the note. Lily and I just woke up. We might explore the lobby cafe if that's okay." He responded almost immediately. "Daniel." Text. "Of course, I'm finishing a call now. If you want company, I can meet you down there in about half an hour." Emma smiled at her phone. Half of her worried she was intruding on his schedule, but the other half was relieved she wasn't alone in a city she barely knew. Emma. Text. "That'd be nice. We'll be at the cafe." She placed Lily's small shoes on the toddler's feet, grabbed her purse and key card and stepped into the hallway. The corridor was hushed, thick carpet absorbing all sound. As she passed by the elevator, a cluster of business people hurried out, laptops in tow. Emma navigated Lily around them carefully, then pressed the button to descend to the lobby. Inside the elevator, Lily clutched Emma's leg. "We go see Doggy?" she asked out of the blue. Emma nearly laughed. Lily often asked about dogs when they traveled. She seemed to remember a friendly canine from some past trip. "I'm not sure there's a doggy here, sweetie," Emma said with a shrug. "But maybe we'll see something fun downstairs." The doors opened onto a swanky lobby, the same airy space they'd entered earlier that morning. Now the hustle of midday was in full swing. A couple in smart attire checked in at the reception desk. Across the way, a small group of tourists flipped through brochures. Emma noted the cafe in the corner, sleek glass counters displaying pastries, fruit bowls, and sandwiches. Instantly, Lily's face lit up at the sight of pastries. Emma guided her over to the cafe, scanning the menu overhead. She considered her budget, though Daniel had offered to help. Still, she didn't feel comfortable charging everything to him. She decided on something simple: a cup of coffee for herself, a small milk for Lily, and a fruit bowl they could share. The barista, sporting a crisp uniform and a friendly smile, quickly prepared their order. They settled at a low table with cushioned chairs. Emma positioned Lily in a tall seat so she could reach the fruit bowl. The child squealed softly at the colorful mix of melon, berries, and pineapple. Emma coaxed her to sip some milk between bites. For a few minutes it was all about focusing on Lily, making sure she got enough to eat. Emma's own stomach rumbled, so she managed a few spoonfuls of fruit as well. Halfway through this impromptu lunch, she glanced up to see Daniel crossing the lobby toward them. He wore a neatly pressed shirt, no tie, and had a phone tucked in one hand. His posture was relaxed but purposeful, projecting the kind of confidence that made him stand out from the corporate crowd swarming behind him. He spotted Emma and Lily, a warm smile breaking across his face. "Hey," he greeted, slipping into the seat opposite Emma. "Looks like you found the good stuff." He nodded at the fruit bowl. Emma returned his smile. "Yeah, we're refueling. Thank you again for letting us stay. I can't imagine what we would have done otherwise." She gestured to Lily, who was busy poking a strawberry slice with her tiny fingers. "She's definitely enjoying this." Daniel reached for a stray napkin and offered it to Lily, laughing softly as she smeared a bit of fruit juice on the table. "Glad you're settling in?" Then he turned to Emma. "How are you feeling? Get some real sleep?" She nodded. "Better than I expected. I can't thank you enough." She paused, fiddling with her coffee cup. "Were you able to handle your work stuff?" Daniel made a wry face. "Sort of. I hopped on a video call with my board. They're concerned about the partnership that's slipping away, but I might have a chance to salvage it if I can meet a key stakeholder in person tomorrow." He shrugged. "We'll see. It's stressful, but I've been through worse negotiations." Emma caught a flicker of tension in his eyes, but also a calm acceptance that this was just part of his life. She admired how he seemed to handle it all with such poise. "Well, I'm rooting for you," she said sincerely. He offered a grateful nod. "Thanks, I appreciate that." Then he glanced at Lily, who was eyeing him curiously. He picked up a raspberry from the fruit bowl, offering it to her. Lily giggled, plucking it from his fingers. "She's so sweet," he added. "How old is she exactly?" 2 going on 20, Emma joked, releasing a short laugh. "She'll be 3 in a few months. Hard to believe how fast it's gone." "That's a fun age," he said quietly. "My niece just turned 3. She's unstoppable." A flicker of something, a memory, perhaps, crossed Daniel's expression. He gently cleared his throat. "So, do you have plans for the rest of the day?" Emma shrugged. "I was going to contact my friend again. She's off work at 6. Maybe figure out if we can stay at her place for a bit. I also need to confirm a time for my job interview. I was hoping to finalize it this week, but they haven't returned my email." Daniel nodded, leaning forward. "What kind of work are you hoping to do?" Emma sighed softly. "Honestly, anything stable with decent pay. I have experience in customer service and some administrative tasks. I can't be too picky, though. I just need a steady income to take care of Lily." My friend mentioned an opening at a small office. Receptionist work, maybe. It's not glamorous, but it's a start. Daniel's gaze grew thoughtful. Admin tasks, reception, customer service. That's actually in line with a lot of entry-level positions at my company's local branch. I wonder if we have any current openings that might fit. I could ask my HR manager. Emma's eyes widened with a mix of hope and hesitation. I wouldn't want to impose. You've already done so much. You're not imposing, Daniel insisted gently. I'd just be connecting you to the right department. No promises, of course, but if you have the skills, it might be worth exploring. She paused, overwhelmed by the generosity of his offer. That would be amazing, she managed, but only if you're sure it's no trouble. I don't expect any special treatment. Don't worry, Daniel said, a soft chuckle in his voice. I can't just hire someone outright. We have processes, interviews, all that. But at least you'd get a fair chance to make your case. Emma's heart fluttered. A real chance, in a legitimate company with potential for growth. It felt like more than she'd dared hope for. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Daniel reached across the table, lightly tapping the back of her hand. Let's keep an open mind, see what works out. In that quiet moment, a current of unspoken understanding flowed between them. Emma recognized that this wasn't just about a job or a place to crash. There was a genuine bond forming, a trust. Lily, oblivious to the undercurrents, babbled about her straw betties, tugging at Daniel's sleeve for more fruit. He obliged, his grin widening. Suddenly, Emma's phone buzzed, breaking the moment. She picked it up, glancing at the caller ID. It was the potential employer's number, the one she'd been waiting on. Oh, I need to take this, she said, standing up and scooping Lily from her chair, balancing the phone in her other hand. I'll be right back. Daniel nodded, watching her walk a few steps away for some privacy. His gaze lingered on Emma, appreciating the spark of determination in her eyes. She was the kind of person who refused to give up, no matter how many obstacles stood in her path. It stirred a curious sense of admiration. As Emma paced near the lobby's marble columns, her tone shifting from cautious to excited, Daniel picked at the last of the fruit. He caught Lily's inquisitive stare. She was watching him with a bright-eyed wonder that momentarily tugged at something deep inside him. She reminded him so much of his younger niece, but there was also a flicker of similarity to someone else, someone he couldn't quite place. It was like an itch in his memory, just out of reach. He shook off the sensation. Must be the fatigue playing tricks on him. Emma returned, carefully juggling Lily. Her cheeks were flushed, eyes shining. They want me to come in for an interview tomorrow, she said breathlessly. Can you believe it? I guess the hiring manager liked my resume after all. That's fantastic, Daniel exclaimed, setting down his fork with a clatter. Congratulations, she nodded, pressing a palm to her heart as if steadying it. Thank you. It's not a guarantee, but at least there's a chance. The relief in her voice was palpable. Absolutely. A chance is all you need, he said warmly. Then he eyed Lily, who was poking the empty fruit bowl in disappointment. Looks like we might need a second serving, he teased, motioning to the barista. Emma laughed, the first real laugh Daniel had heard from her since they met. In that instant, the gravity of everything, his business fiasco, her uncertain future, felt a little lighter. They shared a moment of genuine hope, a new horizon forming on the edges of both their lives. Neither of them knew that the biggest revelation still lay in wait. But for now, they reveled in small victories, the promise of an interview, the potential of a fresh start, and the quiet camaraderie found in an unlikely friendship. In the swirl of city chaos, they were forging a connection that would soon prove unbreakable, once the truth emerged and redefined their worlds forever. The cafe's gentle hum faded into the background as Emma and Daniel finished their fruit bowls and sipped at what remained of their drinks. Lily squirmed in Emma's lap, trying to wriggle free with the typical boundless energy of a toddler who has recently eaten. Emma discreetly wiped a stray smear of berry from the child's cheeks. Daniel couldn't resist smiling at Lily's antics. It struck him suddenly that he'd never spent this much time with a toddler who wasn't in his family. His niece was out of state, so their interactions were limited to brief visits or video chats. Now here he was, playing an impromptu father figure, offering fruit, wiping sticky fingers, receiving half-intelligible toddler questions. It both warmed him and stirred a strange ache in his chest that he couldn't quite name. "Lily, honey, no climbing on the table," Emma murmured, pulling her daughter back into a safer stance. The child pouted briefly, then turned her attention to Daniel, eyes locked onto the shiny metal of his watch. She pointed, babbling something about clock. Emma laughed softly. "She loves anything with numbers or dials. Honestly, half the time I think she'll grow up to be an engineer or something." Daniel twisted his wrist so Lily could get a better look. "My watch doesn't do any tricks," he teased. "But maybe you can help me set the right time zone." He tapped the dial theatrically, making Lily giggle. Emma watched the exchange with a mixture of amusement and something like longing. Daniel was so at ease around Lily, so gentle in his approach. It reminded her of the father Lily never had, and the father Emma had chosen not to contact. She sometimes wondered if she'd done the right thing. But that was a door she'd locked a long time ago. No need to dwell on painful what-ifs. Still, a flicker of guilt threaded through her heart. She cleared her throat softly, focusing on a safer topic. "So, how does your day look? More business calls?" Daniel nodded, leaning back in his chair. "Yeah, I have a conference call with a potential investor in an hour. After that, maybe I'll try to slip out for a break. If the call goes well, I'll meet one of our potential partners tomorrow morning. It's a bit last minute, but it's the best shot we have to salvage things." He hesitated, then added with a hint of self-awareness, "I guess that all sounds pretty dull from the outside." Emma shook her head. "Not dull, just different from what I'm used to. But I get the stress. Any kind of big negotiation is nerve-wracking." Daniel's eyes lingered on her, appreciating her empathy. "If it all works out, we'll expand our e-commerce software to a wider international audience. That's the dream, right?" He gave a small shrug. "Anyway, what about you? Are you going to meet with your friend tonight?" She nodded. "Yes, she's off work at 6. She said I can crash at her place for a bit, assuming I don't end up with some last-minute motel. I just don't want to impose on her too long, especially if I land a job that might let me find my own apartment." "You'll figure it out," Daniel encouraged. "You've got the interview tomorrow, plus the possibility of something at my company. Either way, I'm confident you'll land on your feet." Emma blushed faintly at his unwavering faith. "I sure hope so, for Lily's sake. She deserves stability." Her voice quivered slightly on that last word. She took a slow breath, then forced a smile. "Enough about me. How about we let Lily burn some energy? I saw a little lounge area near the lobby with comfy couches. Maybe she can toddle around a bit without disturbing the cafe crowd." Daniel grinned. "Sounds like a plan." He pulled out his phone, glanced at the time. "I've got a few minutes before I need to prep for the call. Let's go check out that lounge." They cleared the small table, tossing napkins in the nearby trash, and Emma scooped Lily back into her arms. The toddler made a contented squeal, still eyeing Daniel's watch. Heading out of the cafe, they found a quiet corner of the lobby furnished with cushioned chairs and a low coffee table stacked with magazines. A tall window let in generous sunlight, illuminating the polished marble floor. Emma set Lily down carefully, allowing the child to toddle around within arm's reach. Lily spotted a plush chair and immediately attempted to climb it, determined to conquer every piece of furniture in sight. "She's on a mission," Daniel observed with a soft chuckle. He knelt beside Lily for a moment, making sure she didn't tip over. Once she'd managed to haul herself onto the chair, Lily looked incredibly proud, beaming at her small accomplishment. Emma folded her arms, watching with a smile. "I'm just glad she's not wailing after such a hectic travel day. She's usually easygoing, but sometimes—" She exhaled dramatically, as if to say Lily's toddler tantrums could be epic when they struck. "Well, if she has a meltdown, I'll just play that lullaby I used on the plane," Daniel teased. "Right," Emma laughed. "You saved us that night. I still can't believe how different it might have been if you hadn't stepped in." Daniel's expression softened. Fate works in funny ways, I guess. He paused, looking briefly at Lily as she climbed down the chair, only to climb up again. A flicker of emotion crossed his features. You know, I don't usually do that, approach strangers with kids. But something about you and Lily, maybe I just recognized how exhausted you were. Emma looked down, a shy smile tugging at her lips. I'm usually too stubborn to accept help. But that day I was at my limit, so thank you for not ignoring us. They locked eyes for a moment, and the warmth in that look was palpable. Each recognized something in the other, a shared sense of weariness, a determination to push forward, and maybe a longing for someone who understood. Emma cleared her throat, blinking away the sudden surge of emotion. Their moment was interrupted by a crisp ringtone. Daniel reached into his pocket, frowning at the screen. Sorry, it's my CFO. I should take this. Emma nodded, waving him away with no offense taken. He walked a few steps off, murmuring quietly into the phone. Meanwhile, Lily tried to toddle toward a potted plant in the corner, eyes shining with curiosity. Emma quickly intercepted her, steering her back with a gentle hand. The child fussed for a second, wanting to explore further, but Emma distracted her with a small toy from her purse. Daniel's phone conversation looked intense. He paced in a small circle, brow furrowing. Emma guessed the negotiations were hitting another snag. She winced in sympathy. Even from a distance, she caught snippets. Yes, but that wasn't in the original scope. No, we can't just sign off without reviewing. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Emma rocked Lily gently, letting the toddler bounce on her knees. For a moment, she found herself admiring Daniel's profile. The serious posture, the focused gaze, the quiet confidence that exuded from him. A wave of guilt flickered through her again. Why was she noticing these details, daydreaming about a man she'd only met hours ago? Emma told herself it was just gratitude. He'd helped her in a crisis, and that was all. Yet beneath that logical explanation, something else stirred. A subtle gravity pulling her closer. It made her wonder, if things had been different in her past, if the father of her child had known, if she'd let him step up, would life look anything like this? Would she have found the same self-reliance, or would it be a healthier shared responsibility? Unanswerable questions, perhaps. She forced herself to breathe and not dwell on regrets. After a few more minutes, Daniel wrapped up his call, pocketing the phone with a sigh. CFO drama, he said, half smiling as he rejoined her. We have to finalize some cost projections before tomorrow's meeting. My team can handle most of it, but they're panicking a bit. Emma offered him a sympathetic look. Sounds stressful. If you need to go handle that, we're okay here. Lily can explore the lobby until we head upstairs. He glanced at the time on his watch. Lily, noticing the shiny piece of jewelry, reached for it again, eliciting a small laugh from Daniel. He gently let her finger the metal band before turning back to Emma. I'll have to go up to the business lounge soon to prep, but there's something I wanted to talk about. Do you mind if we sit for a second? She picked Lily up and settled the child on her hip. Daniel gestured to the plush chairs near the window, and they both took a seat. Lily perched on Emma's lap, fiddling with the hem of Emma's shirt. I've been thinking, Daniel began, tone soft but resolute, about your job search. I can text my HR manager this afternoon, let her know someone named Emma might come by. If she has any openings, you could get an interview. But I wanted to make sure you're comfortable with that idea. Emma's eyes flickered with cautious excitement. I am. It's just, are you sure you don't mind mixing your personal kindness with your professional connections? I don't want to cause any awkwardness for you. Daniel waved off her concern. Don't worry, our company is fairly large, and my HR manager is used to me forwarding candidates. Ultimately, it's all about the person's qualifications. It's not like I can guarantee a hire, but I can open the door at least. Emma bowed her head slightly, her cheeks warm. That would be incredible. I have a decent work history, just nothing too fancy. But I learn fast and... She halted, realizing she was rambling. "Thank you," she said again, simpler this time. Daniel nodded, a slight grin forming. "Let's do it. I'll shoot her a message tonight, see if she can meet you tomorrow after your other interview." He paused, glancing at Lily, who was trying to grab the folds of the cloth on Daniel's pants. A moment of silence passed, and he asked more quietly, "Can I ask, what about Lily's dad? Is he in the picture at all? Would that affect your flexibility with work hours?" It was a question Emma had both anticipated and dreaded. Her heart thumped uncomfortably. "No," she answered slowly. "He's not around. It was complicated. We parted ways before I even knew I was pregnant." She cradled Lily a bit tighter, eyes drifting downward. "I never told him. I decided not to." Daniel's expression grew solemn. He studied her, perhaps wanting to understand more but reluctant to pry. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "That must be hard, doing all this alone." Emma swallowed, forcing a tight smile. "Sometimes it is. But I made that choice, for better or worse. Lily has me, and I have her." She smoothed Lily's hair, trying to steady herself. "I don't regret it. She's my whole world." Daniel nodded, empathy glowing in his eyes. "She's lucky to have you." Then he let out a small sigh, perhaps reflecting on the weight of single parenthood. "Well, if we can help you find stable work, hopefully that eases one burden. We have flexible schedules for employees with young kids if that's a concern." Emma felt her throat tighten. "You really thought this through," she murmured, touched by his foresight. "Just trying to be helpful." He paused, catching a swirl of unspoken emotions on her face. A tender hush enveloped them, Lily's soft babbles the only interruption. Finally, Daniel stood, smoothing his shirt. "I should head up to the lounge to prepare for my call, but later, maybe after your friend picks you up, we can keep in touch about the HR thing?" Emma rose too, adjusting Lily. "Yes, absolutely. I'll text you, and thanks again." She wasn't sure how many times she could say those words before they lost meaning, but so far, each thank you felt more earnest than the last. Daniel gave a half smile, one that hinted at deeper currents stirring within him. "You're welcome, always. See you soon." They parted in the lobby. Emma watched as Daniel crossed to the bank of elevators. He glanced back briefly, giving her a nod before disappearing behind the sliding doors. Lily let out a small cry of protest, as if objecting to his departure. Emma kissed the top of her daughter's head, reassuring her. "He'll be back, sweet pea." She hoped that was true, because in her life so far, people who left rarely came back. As Lily snuggled closer, Emma made her way toward a cluster of cushioned benches, aware that her friend wouldn't be free for a few more hours. She considered exploring the city, but her budget was tight, and she knew Lily might need a nap. Maybe they'd go back to the room and watch cartoons, wait for evening. Little did Emma know how the tenuous strands of fate were closing in around her and Daniel both. She had locked her past away, never suspecting the father she'd spared from obligation was so near. But every time Lily reached for Daniel's watch, every time he noticed a spark of familiarity in the child's eyes, the universe nudged them closer to the truth. And soon, that truth would no longer stay hidden, ready or not. Late afternoon light poured into the hotel lobby, illuminating the polished marble floors. Emma sat on a cushioned bench with Lily dozing on her lap. The toddler had finally given in to a second nap after a round of energetic exploring, leaving Emma with some quiet time to think about how drastically her situation had changed in just 24 hours. She brushed her palm over Lily's hair, smoothing out the fine strands. Across the lobby, business-suited guests drifted in and out. A pair of flight attendants checked in at the front desk. A concierge offered polite nods to passers-by. Emma felt oddly invisible in this upscale environment, but the anonymity also soothed her. She checked her phone, still no new message from her friend, though it was only mid-afternoon. She debated whether to text Daniel. He had said to keep in touch, but she didn't want to interrupt his important conference call. In the end, she decided to let him reach out if he had time. She was the one benefiting from his generosity. The last thing she wanted was to appear needy or ungrateful. A ding at the elevator bank caught her attention. 2 people in formal business attire stepped out, but Daniel wasn't among them. She tried not to feel disappointed. Then, as if on cue, her phone lit with a text notification. Daniel, text. Just wrapped up the call. Going better than expected. How are you and Lily doing? A soft smile curved Emma's lips. She glanced at Lily snoozing peacefully, then typed, Emma, text. We're good. She wore herself out exploring the lobby. Now she's napping on me. Daniel's reply came almost immediately. Daniel, text. Sounds like she's enjoying her day. Would you like to grab an early dinner later? My treat. I owe you an update on the HR angle too. Emma felt a mix of relief and a gentle flutter of excitement. She told herself it was just gratitude, nothing else. Still, her heart picked up speed. Emma, text. That'd be nice. Lily and I can meet you anywhere. We can go somewhere low-key, so she doesn't cause a scene if she gets fussy. Daniel's response appeared with a smiley face. Daniel, text. Low-key works for me. There's a casual bistro around the corner. Let's aim for 5 wow? Emma agreed. She glanced at the time, 4:15. That gave her just enough space to let Lily finish her nap and freshen up. She set the phone aside, carefully shifting to stand. Lily stirred, but didn't fully wake. Emma made her way to the elevator, cradling the child, her thoughts drifting to the evening ahead. Dinner with Daniel. Again, he was offering help without expecting anything in return. It was a feeling she still wasn't quite used to. At 4:45, Emma emerged from the elevator on the lobby floor, Lily perched on her hip, both of them wearing fresh outfits. She'd tied her hair in a neat ponytail, hoping she looked a bit more put together than earlier. Lily was bright-eyed and curious, as if recharged by her nap, small sneakers dangling. Daniel was waiting near the hotel's front entrance, phone in hand, scanning the passing cars outside. He turned upon hearing the elevator chime, his face lighting up at the sight of them. Hey, he said, tucking his phone away. Perfect timing. Emma lifted Lily's hand in a small wave. We're ready for food, if that's still okay? Absolutely. Shall we walk? It's just around the block. She nodded, and they slipped outside into the early evening air. The city's energy had shifted. Office workers streamed onto sidewalks, some rushing to catch buses, others strolling with coffee cups. Emma fell in step beside Daniel, Lily twisting around to gaze at the bustling scene. They rounded a corner and came upon a cozy bistro with floor-to-ceiling windows. The interior looked inviting with soft lighting and cushioned booths. Daniel pushed open the door and a friendly hostess welcomed them. Emma requested a booth to keep Lily contained, and soon they were seated in a corner spot. Lily bounced excitedly on Emma's lap, eyes darting to the decorative lights hanging overhead. A cheerful waitress approached with menus. Anything to start with? Drinks? Daniel glanced at Emma. Maybe water for me, and what would you like? She considered. I'll have water too, and maybe some juice for Lily. Is that okay, Lily? The toddler nodded vigorously, though she might have just liked hearing her name. When the waitress left, Daniel relaxed against the booth. How was your afternoon? Emma smiled wearily. Peaceful. Lily explored the hotel lobby, then napped again. I feel like we're both recharged now. She tucked a stray curl behind Lily's ear. What about you? Conference call went well, right? He exhaled a mix of relief and lingering tension. Better than expected, yeah. I might still salvage the partnership. We have a bigger meeting tomorrow that could seal the deal. That's great news, Emma said earnestly. I'm rooting for you. Daniel nodded, looking genuinely grateful. Thanks. Now, about the HR update, I texted my HR manager. She said she's reviewing any open admin positions. If you're interested, she can do an informal chat tomorrow afternoon, depending on her schedule. Emma's heart fluttered with cautious excitement. Wow, that's so soon. Are you sure? He gave a small shrug. Company policy encourages quick turnarounds. If they have a need, they don't want to lose a candidate. Then a slight grin touched his lips. Plus, maybe I nudged her a little. Emma laughed softly, though her cheeks warmed. Thank you, it's more than I could have hoped for. I'll arrange it around my other interview, I guess. The waitress returned with their drinks. Lily let out a squeal of delight when handed a small cup of apple juice. Emma steadied the cup, letting Lily sip with help. Meanwhile, Daniel scanned the menu, offering suggestions. They settled on simple fare, a sandwich for Emma, a pasta dish for Daniel, and a small side of mac and cheese for Lily. As they waited, Lily squirmed to be freed from Emma's lap. Daniel offered to hold her so Emma could rest her arms, and the toddler instantly leaned forward, grabbing Daniel's shirt collar. Emma watched with slight anxiety. Lily wasn't always great with strangers, but the little girl seemed content, babbling nonsense at him as if telling a story. Daniel listened intently, occasionally nodding or responding with, "Really?" or "Wow." Emma stifled a laugh. The scene looked so natural. In another life, she thought, perhaps Lily would have had a father who engaged with her just like this. She swallowed against the knot forming in her throat, forcing herself to stay present. "Your friend is off at 6, right?" Daniel asked, focusing back on Emma when Lily paused her babble. "Yeah. She texted that she'll meet us at the hotel afterwards. We might grab a taxi together. My friend's place is small, but she said we can squeeze in for a few days until I figure out my job situation." Daniel nodded. "I'm glad you have a friend around. If anything changes, though, you know where to find me." Their food arrived, and for a while conversation paused in favor of coaxing Lily to eat her mac and cheese. The toddler was enthralled by the cheesy noodles, though half of them threatened to slide onto the table. Daniel and Emma both reached in with napkins at the same time, their hands nearly colliding. They shared a brief, amused look. "She's really a good eater," Daniel commented, dabbing at a stray drip of cheese on Lily's chin. "Most of the time," Emma agreed. "Sometimes she'll get picky, but today she seems too happy to fuss." Daniel chuckled, glancing at Lily with an affectionate warmth in his eyes. Then he leaned closer to Emma, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "Hey, you mentioned not telling Lily's father about her. Is it okay to ask why?" Emma's breath caught. A swirl of old guilt and raw memories churned in her chest. She hadn't expected that question tonight, though she wasn't surprised he was curious. She exhaled slowly, finding her words. "We had a complicated relationship. By the time I found out, we were already done. He had a different path, one that didn't include me. I just felt it was best to not drag him back into it. I wasn't sure he'd want to be a father, and I also worried about being hurt again." She forced a small laugh, though it held no humor. "I know it sounds extreme, but at the time it made sense. I guess I felt strong enough to handle it alone." Daniel frowned softly, compassion in his gaze. "That's a lot to shoulder by yourself." Emma picked at her sandwich. "Yeah, well, I've made it work. And Lily's happy. That's what matters." A thought flickered in her mind. She wondered if one day Lily might resent not knowing her father. But Emma pushed that aside, reminding herself she'd done her best in difficult circumstances. Daniel set his fork down. "I respect that, but it must have been tough. For what it's worth, if you ever change your mind, reach out to him. I'm sure you'd handle that too. You're obviously strong." A flutter of something indescribable swept through Emma. She forced a thankful smile. "Maybe, but I doubt I'll ever see him again. He moved on, and I moved on. Lily's my life now. That's enough." Daniel didn't press the subject further, sensing the fragility behind her words. He took a sip of water, his brow furrowed in subtle contemplation. The conversation turned lighter. Emma mentioned silly stories of Lily's toddler mishaps, while Daniel shared anecdotes from his corporate travels. Lily alternated between devouring mac and cheese and trying to snag a bite from Emma's plate. By the time they finished, Lily was yawning again. Emma chuckled, wiping Lily's hands. "She's had a big day." "Should we head back?" Daniel asked, sliding his card to the waitress before Emma could protest. "You said your friend's meeting you at the hotel around 6. Emma nodded. "Yes, thank you for dinner. You've spoiled us this entire day. I feel so guilty." He placed a hand gently on her arm, a reassuring gesture that made her heart lurch. "Don't, please. It's my pleasure." His words lingered, thick with meaning. Emma's cheeks warmed, and she busied herself lifting Lily from the high chair. The waitress returned with the receipt, Daniel signed it, and they gathered their things. In the warm glow of the bistro lights, they stepped back onto the bustling sidewalk. The city skyline reflected the final traces of sunlight, painting the streets in soft gold. Cars honked in the distance, and office lights blinked on in tall buildings. Emma held Lily's hand while Daniel walked close by, occasionally giving Lily a playful grin. They cut around the block, chatting idly until the hotel's entrance came into view. Emma felt an odd sense of disappointment that this part of the day was ending. Despite the swirling uncertainties, she found Daniel's company deeply comforting. She glanced at her phone, noting 5:45. Just enough time to wait for her friend in the lobby. Stepping into the air-conditioned interior, Emma led Lily to a row of plush chairs near the windows. Daniel joined them, setting his phone aside for a moment. "I'll hang out until your friend arrives," he offered. Emma was about to say something when Lily suddenly tugged on Daniel's shirt, babbling with intense focus. He leaned in, amused. "What's that, Lily? You need a secret agent?" Emma laughed, but then Lily's next words slurred together in a way that sounded almost like "daddy." Emma froze, eyes widening. Had Lily really said that? The child was at an age where she tried random words. Sometimes doggy and daddy sounded similar. But Emma's heart gave a painful jolt. She peered at Lily, whose face was all smiles, reaching for Daniel's watch again. Daniel raised his eyebrows. Did she just say... He glanced at Emma, unsure. Emma forced a light chuckle. She might have tried to say doggy. She does that sometimes. She's still learning. Her tone was forced casual, but a tension coiled in her chest. In the back of her mind, she recalled how children sometimes sensed things beyond adult comprehension. Or maybe it was simply a coincidence, one that pierced Emma's heart like a needle. Daniel gave a slight nod, brushing off the odd moment. Lily, oblivious to the tension, giggled as he offered her the watch to fiddle with. Emma cleared her throat, shifting Lily onto her lap. "I guess we'll wait here for my friend. She should be here soon." They made small talk, but Emma couldn't shake the nervous flutter. She imagined the impossible scenario, Lily recognizing Daniel as her father. But that was absurd. Daniel was a stranger, a kind CEO who happened to cross their path. The timing, the geography, everything was wrong for him to be Lily's father. Emma knew who Lily's father was, and it wasn't Daniel. Yet an unsettling whisper lingered in Emma's mind, a voice she refused to entertain. "Are you really sure? Because your memory of that time? Were you entirely certain of the man's identity, or did you and Daniel—" She squashed the thought. That was impossible. She would remember if Daniel had been the man from her past. There was no way she wouldn't. At 6 sharp, a tall woman with braided hair and a bright smile hurried through the rotating doors. Emma recognized her friend instantly, relief flooding her. "That's Carrie," she told Daniel. Carrie spotted Emma, waving excitedly. She hurried over, arms outstretched. "Oh my gosh, finally! Emma, girl, you made it! And this must be Lily! Look at you, big girl!" Carrie planted a light kiss on Lily's cheek. Then she turned a curious gaze to Daniel. "And who's this?" Emma shifted uncomfortably. "Carrie, this is Daniel. He helped us a lot after our flight fiasco. We ended up with no place to go, and he saved us. Daniel offered a polite handshake. Pleasure to meet you, Carrie. Glad Emma's going to have a friend's place to stay. Carrie nodded, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. Thank you for looking out for them. Emma told me bits of the story over text, but I didn't realize how big of a help you've been. No need to thank me, Daniel said gently. I was happy to do it. Carrie turned back to Emma. Ready to head out? I've got a cab waiting. My place isn't too far. She peered at Lily, who was drifting toward drowsiness again. You look like you could use a real bed, sweet pea. Emma's posture sagged in relief. Yes, that'd be great. She glanced at Daniel, unsure how to say goodbye. Their time together had been so brief, yet so meaningful. I guess this is it. Thank you, Daniel, for everything. Daniel nodded, his expression softening. Stay in touch about the interviews. I'll let you know what my HR manager says, and if you need anything else, you have my number. Emma swallowed, feeling an odd ache. Right. Thank you. We will. He gently touched Lily's shoulder in farewell. The toddler blinked sleepily, giving a small grin. Then, with a final nod to Carrie, Daniel stepped back, allowing them to head for the doors. Thanks again, Emma said, her voice shaking slightly. Daniel merely smiled, tucking his hands into his pockets as he watched them leave. Outside, Carrie guided Emma and Lily into the waiting taxi. Emma settled Lily onto her lap, her mind spinning. She pressed her face against the window as the taxi pulled away, catching one last glimpse of Daniel standing in the hotel's entrance, hands still in his pockets, gaze following them. Something about his figure, tall, slightly stooped as though weighed down by unspoken thoughts, made Emma's heart squeeze. Then the taxi rounded a corner, and he was gone. Carrie broke the silence. Girl, you have to tell me everything. Who is that handsome guy, and how on earth did you land in a fancy hotel suite? Emma forced a laugh, hugging Lily closer. It's a long story, but he's just a kind soul I met on the plane. Saved me from disaster. Carrie raised an eyebrow. You're lucky, for sure, and he looks like he's into you. Emma's cheeks flamed. Stop. It's not like that. He was just being nice. She didn't dare examine how part of her wished it could be more. They rolled through the city streets, neon signs and commuter lights flickering past. Lily dozed again, her small frame snug in Emma's arms. Emma gazed out at the bustle, recalling every detail of the last day. Daniel's calm smile, his readiness to help. The way he connected with Lily as though he'd known her longer than a handful of hours. Yet Emma told herself they were just from different worlds. She refused to let her heart wander down the path of impossible fantasies. Practicality and caution guided her life now, and Lily came first. Still, deep inside, something tugged at her like a half-remembered dream. She brushed the thought aside. She had to focus on the real tasks, nailing her interviews, securing a place to live, and providing for her daughter. As the taxi pulled up to Carrie's apartment building, Emma felt an undeniable sense of gratitude for having a friend to lean on. But another feeling lingered under her ribs, a subtle, persistent ache she couldn't quite define. She pushed it away, stepping out into the fresh evening air, Lily resting against her shoulder. For Daniel, Emma, and Lily, the forks in their paths were multiplying, and in that branching future the undisclosed truth about Lily's parentage lay waiting for a catalyst. Sometimes the biggest revelations come not with a crash but with a soft unraveling, a whisper of recognition and the nudge of fate. Morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of Carrie's modest apartment, illuminating the small living room cluttered with second-hand furniture and bright cushions. Emma woke on a fold-out couch, Lily curled up next to her with a tangle of blankets. The faint smell of coffee drifted from the tiny kitchenette, where Carrie was quietly rummaging through cabinets. Emma sat up gingerly, trying not to disturb Lily. The child was still fast asleep, her lips parted in peaceful oblivion. Checking her phone, Emma noted it was already 7:30, time to get moving if she wanted to prep for her first interview of the day. She had a quick meeting set up with a local office that needed a receptionist. Then, later in the afternoon, she was supposed to speak to Daniel's HR manager. She rose carefully, tiptoeing across the creaky floor. Carrie glanced over her shoulder from the kitchenette, wearing a friendly grin. "Morning, sunshine," she teased. "There's coffee if you want it." Emma yawned. "Thank you. Yes, please." She ran a hand through her rumpled hair. "Lily's still out like a light." Carrie nodded sympathetically. "She had a big day. You both did. Daniel sure helped you land on your feet, huh?" She turned to pour a mug of coffee, passing it to Emma. "So, come on, spill the rest. You barely told me anything last night." Emma sighed, cradling the warm mug. "There's not much else to say. We got stranded by the flight delay, and Daniel offered a hotel room so Lily and I could rest. Then he took us to dinner, covered the bill. He's just a generous person." Carrie raised an eyebrow. "Generous, and also pretty easy on the eyes." Emma shot her friend a mock glare, cheeks warming. "Stop. It's not like that. We connected during the trip. He's been incredibly kind." Carrie gave her a knowing smirk. "Uh-huh. You said he's got some big job, right?" "Yeah. He's the CEO of a tech company. He's actually offered to see if there's an admin position I might fit into. That's the interview I might do this afternoon. Can you believe it?" She let out a self-conscious laugh. "I'd never expect a chance like that otherwise." "That's huge," Carrie said earnestly. She fished out a jar of sugar, stirring a spoonful into her own coffee. "Don't blow it, girl, and don't overthink it either. If you're a good match, they'll see it." Emma sighed, taking a cautious sip of the black coffee. "I'm trying not to get my hopes too high. If nothing else, I still have the receptionist job to try for this morning. And Lily can't just bounce around forever. I need stability." Carrie patted her arm. "You'll get there. And you know you can crash here a bit. Sorry it's not exactly kid-friendly, but we'll manage." A wave of gratitude washed over Emma. "Thank you, Carrie. Seriously. Once I'm on my feet, I won't be a burden." "Don't call it a burden," Carrie scolded gently. "We're friends. I love Lily. And hey, maybe soon you'll be a fancy admin in Daniel's tech empire, living in your own place." Emma rolled her eyes with a playful scoff. "We'll see." She finished her coffee, setting the mug down. "I better get dressed for the interview. Want to watch Lily if she wakes up? I'll do a quick shower." Carrie nodded, smiling. "Go ahead. Good luck, babe." By 8:30, Emma was dressed in her best attempt at professional attire, a simple blouse and a black skirt paired with flats she'd saved for job interviews. She'd done what she could with her hair, taming it into a neat ponytail, and applied minimal makeup just to appear refreshed. Lily stirred awake halfway through Emma's preparations, so Carrie entertained her with silly faces and cartoons on a small TV in the corner. Before heading out the door, Emma knelt to kiss Lily's forehead. "Mommy's got to talk to some people about work, okay? I'll come back soon." Lily babbled something that sounded like, "Go work," which made Carrie laugh. "She's too smart," Carrie joked. "We'll be fine, Em. Go wow them." Emma grabbed her purse, exhaling a nervous breath. "Thanks, Carrie. Text me if anything comes up." She descended the cramped stairwell to the street, where a rush of morning traffic and the scent of fresh-baked bread from a nearby bakery greeted her. Hailing a taxi took only a minute, and she gave the address of the small administrative office where she'd arranged the first interview. The drive across town felt like an eternity as Emma rehearsed the answers in her head: her work history, her reasons for relocating, her childcare plan. She wanted to appear reliable, even if her life circumstances were precarious. She reminded herself that Lily was her motivation. This new job was a step toward giving her daughter a stable future. Once the taxi arrived at a modest 2-story building, Emma thanked the driver and stepped onto the sidewalk. The office looked unremarkable. Big glass doors, a small lobby visible through tinted windows. She checked her reflection in the glass, smoothing a stray hair behind her ear. Inside, a bored-looking receptionist asked Emma to wait, offering her a seat with outdated magazines. After a few minutes, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and salt-and-pepper hair approached. "Emma? I'm Ms. Ralston. Come on back to my office." Emma followed, heart pounding. The interview took place in a cramped office lined with filing cabinets. Ms. Ralston studied Emma's resume, asked a string of questions about her experience and availability, then frowned thoughtfully. "We need someone Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. We have limited tolerance for absenteeism because it's a small team. You said you're a single mother. What's your backup plan if your child is sick or daycare falls through?" Emma forced a confident tone. "I have a friend who can help, and I'll secure a reliable childcare arrangement. I won't let personal issues interfere with my responsibilities." Ms. Ralston gave a curt nod. "We'll see. I have a few more candidates, but I'll let you know by the end of the week. Thank you for coming in." It wasn't exactly a warm goodbye, and Emma left feeling uncertain. The job was basic, front desk work with a bit of admin support. But competition was fierce. She clutched her purse tightly, stepping back onto the busy sidewalk. Checking her phone, she saw no new messages from Daniel or Carrie. She tried to recall Daniel's words from last night. "You'll figure it out." He believed in her. Letting that bolster her spirits, she hailed another taxi to return to Carrie's apartment, heart fluttering at the thought of her second interview opportunity, this time potentially under Daniel's company. Back at the apartment, Lily greeted Emma with an excited squeal. Carrie gave 2 thumbs up. "How'd it go?" Emma set her purse down, sighing. "Hard to tell. The interviewer was pretty stiff. She said she'd let me know by the end of the week." Carrie shrugged. "At least you got it done. Now you've got Daniel's company as a backup." Emma collapsed onto the couch. "I'm meeting his HR manager around 2, if everything aligns. Daniel said he'd text me the details." She felt a whirl of nerves. "I hope it's not too late to set it up." "Girl, it's barely 10 in the morning," Carrie teased. "Relax. You have time." She offered Lily a piece of fruit. "We'll hang here until you need to go, unless you want me to come along?" Emma shook her head. "Thanks, but maybe it's simpler if Lily stays with you again. I want to focus." Carrie grinned. "No problem. We'll have a blast. And maybe afterwards, we'll celebrate your new job." Emma couldn't help but laugh at her friend's optimism. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." Shortly before noon, Emma's phone buzzed. She hurried to check it, her heart leaping at the sight of Daniel's name. Daniel. Text. "Hi, Emma. HR can see you at 2 p.m. Here's the address of our downtown office. Just ask for Mia at reception. She knows you're coming. Good luck." Emma stared at the phone, adrenaline mingling with hope. This was really happening. Another door swinging open, courtesy of Daniel's faith in her. She typed a quick reply. "Emma, text. Thank you so much. I'll be there on time." She showed Carrie the text, excitement shining in her eyes. "Looks like I'm all set for 2. Wish me luck." Carrie whooped softly, mindful not to spook Lily, who was busy doodling on a scrap of paper. "You got this, Em. Just be confident. You've got admin experience, plus a reference from the CEO, sort of." Emma bit her lip. "I can't rely on favoritism. I'll still have to prove myself." Carrie nodded. "True. But you're good with people. You're organized. You handle crises with a toddler on your hip. That's skill. Show them that." Emma mustered a grin. "I'll try my best." She spent the next hour fussing over her outfit, wondering if she should change into nicer heels or keep the practical flats. Eventually, she chose a simple pair of low heels for a more polished look. She double-checked her hair and minimal makeup in Carrie's small bathroom mirror. Her stomach twisted with nerves, but she reminded herself that this was a chance for a real fresh start. After grabbing a quick snack, she kissed Lily goodbye again, feeling the toddler's small arms wrap around her neck. Lily babbled, "Mama go?" with a hint of confusion. Emma brushed the child's hair. "Just for a bit, baby. Then Mommy will be back." Carrie promised to keep Lily entertained with coloring and a short walk to the nearby park. Emma left the apartment and caught another taxi, this time to the sleek address Daniel had provided. As the cab inched through traffic, Emma stared at her reflection in the window, the city swirling beyond. It was surreal having two interviews in one day, one that felt uncertain and distant, and another that might connect her more deeply to Daniel, a man she still barely knew, yet trusted inexplicably. When the taxi finally pulled up to a towering glass building downtown, Emma swallowed hard. The structure's facade gleamed with modern elegance, the entrance flanked by tall ornamental planters. She smoothed her skirt and stepped out onto the bustling sidewalk. Commuters streamed around her, suits and polished shoes. She felt a stab of intimidation. Did she really belong here? She forced herself forward, passing a polished steel sign emblazoned with the company's name. Riding the elevator to the 15th floor, she tried to calm her racing heart. "Mia at reception," Daniel had said. "Just ask for her, and she'll handle the rest." Exiting the elevator, Emma stepped into an airy lobby with curved walls and plush seating. A sleek, minimalist reception desk occupied the center. A young woman with a stylish bob and a headset greeted Emma with a friendly smile. "Hello? Welcome to Grant & Co. How can I help?" Emma inhaled. "Hi, I'm Emma. I have an appointment with Mia from HR." "Of course," the receptionist said brightly. "One moment." She tapped on her tablet, then gestured down a corridor. "If you'll walk that way, second door on the right, Mia is expecting you." Emma thanked her, skin tingling with nerves. She made her way through the hallway, noticing glass-walled offices where people typed away at computers or huddled in meetings. It was a hive of productivity, a far cry from the sleepy admin office she'd visited earlier. She wondered if Daniel was somewhere in this building too, or if he was at another location. Part of her hoped she'd bump into him again. At the second door on the right, a frosted glass panel read, "Human Resources." Emma stepped inside to find a compact room with a few chairs and plants. A woman in her early 30s, dressed in professional attire, approached with a handshake. "Emma, I'm Mia. Great to meet you." Emma returned the handshake, grateful for the woman's warm demeanor. "Hi, yes, thank you for seeing me on such short notice." Mia smiled. "Daniel gave me a heads up. Let's talk in my office." She led Emma down a short hall to a glass-walled space furnished with a sleek desk and modern chairs. Once settled, Mia glanced at the resume Emma offered. "So you have customer service and admin background. Daniel mentioned you're looking for something stable." Emma nodded, doing her best to maintain poise. "Yes, that's correct. I'm new to the city, but I'm eager to learn and contribute." Mia fired off a series of questions about Emma's experience, her problem-solving skills, how she handled difficult clients, how she managed data entry or scheduling. Emma answered as best she could, drawing on her previous roles. Mia listened, occasionally typing notes. Eventually, Mia leaned back, folding her hands. "We do have an opening for an office coordinator. It's entry-level plus, involves scheduling, handling the phones, greeting visitors, managing some supply orders. The hours are 9 to 5 with some flexibility if needed. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in?" Emma's breath caught. "Yes, absolutely. I'd love the chance." Mia nodded, a warm smile brightening her face. "Okay, next step would be a second interview with the department lead. Normally we have a thorough process, but since Daniel recommended you and your background seems fitting, we might expedite it." She paused, sizing Emma up with an earnest look. "He rarely makes personal referrals, by the way, so I imagine he sees something special in you." Emma's cheeks flamed. "He's just been very kind, helping me after my flight situation. But I promise to earn my place if you hire me." Mia laughed softly. "I have no doubt. Let's see if we can schedule that second interview tomorrow or the day after." They exchanged a few more details, setting a provisional time. Emma tried not to show how ecstatic she felt. Her heart pounded with excitement. This was a real opportunity in a reputable company. The possibility of stable income, benefits, even growth. When Mia finally wrapped up and stood, Emma followed, mind still buzzing. At the door, Mia gave a parting smile. "We'll be in touch very soon. Thanks for coming in, Emma." Emma thanked her, stepping back into the hallway. She felt as if she were floating. Navigating back toward the elevators, she passed a few employees who gave polite nods. One man nearly bumped into her while rushing with a tablet in hand, and she stepped aside, muttering a quick apology. She ended up near a large glass window overlooking the city skyline. Sunlight bounced off the buildings, reflecting a bright future she hoped to seize. The entire moment felt surreal. This morning she'd had one lukewarm interview, and now she was leaving a second one that left her brimming with hope. A familiar voice jolted her from her thoughts. "Emma?" She turned, spotting Daniel striding down the corridor from behind. Her breath caught. She tried to compose herself, not wanting to appear too flustered. "Daniel, hi. I didn't know you were here." He smiled, hands slipping into his pockets. "I had a meeting on another floor, then came up to check on something. Did you just finish with HR?" Emma nodded, exhaling a giddy laugh. "Yes, Mia was wonderful. She said I might have a second interview soon for an office coordinator position. Thank you, Daniel. Really." He grinned back, the kind of genuine smile that made her heart flutter. "That's fantastic news. And trust me, we need someone reliable in that department." He glanced at his watch, Lily's favorite toy. "Do you have time to talk, or are you rushing off?" She glanced at her phone. "I'm done for the day, actually. Carrie's watching Lily, so I'm free." He tilted his head. "Want to grab a coffee downstairs in our break lounge? It's not as fancy as the bistro, but it's free." He ended with a playful wink, and Emma found herself nodding before she could overthink it. They took the elevator one floor down, walking into a spacious lounge area with couches, a kitchenette, and large windows. A few employees chatted over coffee, but Daniel led Emma to a quieter corner. He pulled 2 mugs from a cabinet, filling them at a coffee machine. "Cream or sugar?" "A little cream, thanks," she said, her pulse still thrumming from the interview high. He handed her a steaming mug, then sat on a soft chair facing her. "So you feel good about it?" She let out a shaky laugh, sipping carefully to stall her overflowing excitement. "Better than I ever expected." Mia was positive. She said a second interview is likely. It's a step up from the admin job I interviewed for this morning. Better environment, better pay, I'm sure." Daniel nodded, eyes warm. "Then I'm happy for you. And for us, potentially, if you join the team." He paused, tapping his mug thoughtfully. "I hope I didn't overshadow your qualifications by putting in a word. I just wanted to ensure the door opened. The rest is your merit." Her chest tightened with gratitude. "No, you did exactly that. Opened the door. I have to do the work, but at least I got the chance." He smiled, a contemplative silence settling between them. Office bustle murmured from the hallway, but in this little lounge corner, it felt oddly private. Emma found herself studying his features, a certain earnestness in his eyes, the slight crease in his brow that hinted at constant thoughts whirling behind them. She wondered, not for the first time, why he'd taken such interest in her situation. A tingle of awareness flickered in her mind. Lily's father had been older, confident, a traveler who breezed in and out of her life, but the timelines, the details. Could Daniel fit the puzzle somehow? Her stomach clenched with the uneasy memory of Lily nearly calling him Daddy last night. She pushed the thought away again. It was impossible. She would remember if Daniel had been the man from her past. Right? "Emma?" he prompted gently. "You seem lost in thought." She flushed, forced a quick smile. "Just thinking about how grateful I am. Everything's happening so fast. but in a good way. He nodded, sipping his coffee. I get it. My life turned upside down when I launched this company. I never thought I'd see success like this or meet half the people I have. Fate has a funny way of weaving stories. Her heart pounded as he said that, as if fate might also weave their stories together in ways neither foresaw. She set her mug down, clearing her throat. Well, I guess we'll see where it all leads. I should probably get back soon. Lily's with my friend, and I don't want to overstay her hospitality. Daniel stood, placing his mug in a sink. Let me walk you to the lobby. You can call a cab, or I can have the company car service take you, whichever you prefer. Emma hesitated, but the idea of another free ride made her feel guilty. A quick taxi is fine. I don't want to be a nuisance. He gave her a playful eye roll. You're never a nuisance, Emma. But sure, whatever makes you comfortable. They rode the elevator down together, exchanging small talk about the city's weather and Lily's habits. When the doors slid open at the ground floor, Daniel escorted her through the modern lobby, employees buzzing around them. Before Emma stepped outside, Daniel stopped her with a gentle touch on her arm. Hey, I'll be traveling soon for business, but I'd love to see you and Lily again if you're free this weekend. Maybe we can do something fun. Kid-friendly, of course. Emma's heart thumped. She blinked, surprised by the invitation. Oh, that would be nice. I'll see how Lily's schedule is, and my interviews, hopefully. But yes, sure. His face lit with a hopeful spark. Great. Then I'll be in touch. Good luck with everything. She smiled. Thank you, Daniel. You too. Good luck with your partnership meeting. With that, she slipped outside into the midday sun, hailing a taxi on the busy street once again. Climbing into the back seat, Emma replayed the entire conversation, her pulse unsteady. She couldn't ignore how natural it felt to be around Daniel, how Lily adored him, and how effortlessly he'd woven himself into their lives in just 2 days. Yet a creeping doubt gnawed at her whenever she thought about Lily's father. She had to stop entertaining the notion that Daniel might somehow be that man. She'd know if that were true, wouldn't she? Shaking off the confusion, Emma focused on the future. She had potential job offers, a place to stay with Carrie for now, and Lily was content. That was enough. Or so she tried to convince herself. Because even if Daniel wasn't Lily's father, Emma sensed that secrets had a way of surfacing, especially when fate kept crossing their paths. Soon she'd learn that some truths refused to stay hidden, and that her life, and Daniel's, were about to converge in a revelation that would upend all their careful plans. For now, Emma simply headed back to Carrie's apartment, buoyed by the promise of a better tomorrow and unaware that destiny was quietly, inexorably unfolding. A crisp Saturday morning dawned bright, the city skyline bathed in gentle sunbeams. Emma stood in front of Carrie's mirror, adjusting her hair for the 3rd time. She wasn't sure why she felt so jittery. Daniel had invited her and Lily to a family-friendly park near the waterfront. Just a casual outing, he'd said, but Emma couldn't calm the tiny knots in her stomach. Carrie, sipping coffee on the couch, studied her friend with an amused look. You know this is just a playdate at the park, right? She teased. Not a red carpet premiere. Emma shot her a wry grin, cheeks warming. I know, he's done so much for me. And Lily likes him. I guess I want to make a good impression. Carrie arched an eyebrow. Honey, I think you've already impressed him plenty. She nodded toward Lily, who was tugging at a small coat, insisting she wear it even though the apartment was warm. Besides, you're bringing the cutest accessory in the world, your toddler. Emma laughed softly, helping Lily fasten the coat. That's what I'm nervous about. If she has a meltdown or something, I don't want to look unprepared. She'll do great. So will you, Carrie said firmly. Now go have fun. Text me if you need anything. Emma gathered her small backpack of essentials, snacks, wipes, a spare diaper. Then she and Lily headed downstairs, emerging onto the busy street. She tapped Daniel's number on her phone. Emma, text. We're leaving now. The park's about 15 minutes away. Are you there already? His reply was instantaneous. Daniel, text. Just arrived. I found a good spot near the carousel. See you soon? Emma flagged a taxi, and she and Lily climbed in. As they rode, Lily gazed out the window, chattering about the passing buildings and the occasional dog on the sidewalk. Emma couldn't help but smile. Her daughter's excitement was contagious. They reached the waterfront park, a sprawling green space dotted with colorful rides, food stands, and a charming antique carousel. Families strolled across the pathways, children squealing at the sight of cotton candy and balloons. Emma carried Lily out of the taxi, scanning the crowd. It didn't take long to spot Daniel, tall, in a casual button-down shirt and jeans, standing beside a wooden fence near the carousel. He waved when he saw them, a welcoming grin lighting his face. Lily squealed, "Dane! Dane!" her best approximation of Daniel. Emma felt a flutter of warmth at Lily's reaction. "Hi," she said once they were close enough to hear. "Sorry if we're a bit late. Traffic was busier than I expected." "No worries," Daniel assured her. He reached out, offering Lily a colorful balloon he'd picked up from a nearby vendor. The toddler's eyes went wide, and she grabbed the string with both hands, beaming. "Thought she might like something bright," he explained. Emma's heart melted. "She loves it. Thank you." They wandered toward the carousel, Lily enthralled by the painted horses and the bright lights. Daniel guided them to the ticket booth, insisting on paying for everything. Emma almost protested, but he waved off her concern gently. "Come on, let me treat Lily to some fun. I'm sure riding the carousel will make her day." Emma relented, helping Lily onto one of the stationary benches rather than a galloping horse, just to keep things safe. Daniel stepped on too, standing beside them. As the carousel jolted into motion, old-fashioned music tinkled through the speakers. Lily clutched the balloon in one hand and Emma's arm in the other, giggling whenever the ride turned them in a gentle circle. Daniel watched Lily's joy with an expression Emma couldn't quite describe, something like wonder, tinged with tenderness. Every so often, Lily glanced up at him, squeaking "Dane" or "we" as the carousel rotated. Emma felt a lump in her throat. It was almost too perfect seeing them together. When the carousel slowed, Lily pouted at the end of the ride. Daniel chuckled, offering her a playful hand to dismount. "We can ride it again later if you want," he promised her. The toddler nodded eagerly, hugging the balloon tight. They strolled through the park, exploring stalls selling pretzels and lemonade. At one point, Lily spotted a face-painting station. She tugged Emma's hand, pointing and babbling. Emma hesitated, but Daniel quickly said, "Let's do it, I'll hold your bag." So Emma and Lily sat at a little table as a cheery artist painted a small butterfly on Lily's cheek. Daniel watched from the side, one hand supporting Lily's head so she wouldn't squirm too much. The closeness between them was striking, like a father gently steadying his child. Emma had to quell a stab of emotion rising in her chest. After the face painting, they found a shady spot under a large oak tree. Lily ran in circles, balloon bobbing behind her, pausing every so often to peek at Daniel or Emma with that bright toddler grin. Emma took a moment to breathe, the warmth of the day and the simple delight of Lily's happiness seeping into her bones. Daniel leaned against the tree trunk beside her. "You seem more relaxed than when we first met," he observed quietly. She laughed softly. "Well, life is still in flux, but I guess I'm seeing a path forward. My second interview is in 2 days, and that first place might call me by the end of the week. Either way, I have options, and that's incredible." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "If everything goes well at our company, you'll have a supportive environment. I promise." Emma glanced at him, heart swelling with gratitude. "Daniel, I can't repay you for how you've changed our situation. Lily and I would still be stranded if not for you." He shook his head gently, It's not about repayment, Emma. I care about you both. More than I expected to, if I'm honest." Her breath caught at the openness in his tone. She swallowed, unsure how to respond. "Daniel?" she began, but Lily's joyful shout interrupted. She'd found a small dog passing by on a leash and ran to it, squealing with delight. Emma hurried to ensure Lily didn't startle the dog, while Daniel chuckled, stepping in to help keep the toddler from tugging the leash. The dog's owner, a friendly older woman, let Lily pet the pup's head. "She's adorable," the woman cooed, glancing between Emma and Daniel with a soft, knowing smile. "You have a sweet family." Emma blushed fiercely. "Oh, we're—" "Thank you," Daniel said, equally flustered. The older woman winked, then moved along, leaving Emma and Daniel to exchange awkward smiles. Lily, satisfied with the dog encounter, turned back to them, hugging Daniel's leg. He automatically ruffled her hair in response. "Want to grab something to drink?" he suggested, gently steering Lily away from the dog's direction. "It's getting warm." Emma nodded, grateful for a moment to collect herself. They meandered toward a lemonade stand. In the queue, Lily demanded to be carried, so Daniel scooped her up, bouncing her lightly against his hip. Emma marveled at the ease with which he handled her. If she hadn't known better, she might have assumed they'd known each other for years. Then, with Lily in his arms, Daniel's phone rang. He awkwardly fished it out of his pocket, passing Lily to Emma so he could answer. "Hey, Mark," he said, stepping aside. A short conversation followed. Emma guessed it was a colleague or maybe an investor. His voice was calm but urgent. After a minute, he hung up with a sigh, returning to Emma's side. "Everything okay?" she asked softly. He nodded, though tension lingered in his brow. "The partnership is moving forward, but I need to finalize some paperwork. I might have to fly out tomorrow night." Emma's chest twinged. "Already?" He gave a rueful smile. "Business calls, I guess. But I hope to see you again before I go. Maybe we can talk more, about Lily, about your plans." She hesitated, her heart pounding. "I'd like that." She opened her mouth to say more, but a sudden cry cut through the air. Lily, pointing at a bright booth selling stuffed animals, had dropped her balloon. It tumbled across the grass, carried by a slight breeze. Without a second thought, Daniel sprinted after it, disappearing behind a cluster of onlookers. Emma shifted Lily on her hip, comforting the child's tears. A small crowd parted near the booth, revealing Daniel crouched to retrieve the balloon. But he'd also collided with a cardboard display that toppled over. As he straightened, Emma glimpsed something unusual. His shirt cuff had slid up, revealing a small birthmark on his wrist. Her breath stalled. A swirl of memory struck like lightning. A man from her past had had that same distinct birthmark, shaped almost like a tiny crescent. In the chaos of their brief fling, Emma had never forgotten it, but she dismissed it after so long. Now she watched Daniel approach, balloon in hand, oblivious to the shock on Emma's face. He crouched to Lily's level, tying the balloon around her wrist so it wouldn't fly away again. "There we go," he said gently, ruffling the child's hair. Emma's mind spun, a wave of denial and confusion crashing into her. The timeline, the details. She'd been so certain that the father of her child was a fleeting romance she'd met on a trip. The man had traveled under a different name, or so she'd assumed. She'd never even tried to track him down after their parting. But that distinctive birthmark. "Emma?" Daniel asked, noticing how pale she'd gone. He stood up slowly, concern etched on his features. "What's wrong?" She struggled for words, heart pounding like a drum. Lily, oblivious, clung to the balloon, humming happily. Emma felt the ground tilt beneath her feet, past regrets and half-remembered nights flooding her thoughts. Could it be that Daniel was the man from her past? That all along the father Emma had chosen not to contact was right here? Her gaze flicked to Lily. Then she looked at Daniel, realization breaking over her in a wave that made her knees weak. The random similarities, the sense of familiarity Lily showed, that near "daddy" slip, none of it had been coincidence. A trembling breath escaped her lips. "Daniel, your wrist. That mark." He glanced down, puzzled, pushing his sleeve slightly. "Oh, the birthmark." A small laugh. "I've had it since I was born, obviously. Looks like a crescent moon, right?" Emma's vision blurred with tears. She forced herself to speak, voice quaking. I think I know you from before. Years ago, we met under different circumstances, and I never told you." "Oh, God." She pressed a hand to her mouth, choking back sobs. He paled, confusion and shock gripping him. "What? Emma, what are you saying? We've never—" She shook her head, tears spilling. "We did. It was so brief I didn't even know your full name. I left thinking you'd never want ties. And then Lily happened." Daniel's eyes widened, realization dawning like a thunderbolt. He stared at Lily, then back at Emma, his breath shallow. The world seemed to halt around them, families still laughing, balloons drifting overhead, the distant whir of the carousel, but none of it touched their silent, electric bubble of truth. "Oh my God," he murmured, voice raw. "You're saying I'm her father?" Emma's tears fell freely now, Lily shifting restlessly in her arms. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, voice ragged. "I truly had no idea. I never meant to keep her from you, but I thought we parted ways, and I was sure you'd moved on. I didn't even think we'd ever cross paths again." A tempest of emotions raged in Daniel's face. Shock, wonder, heartbreak, anger, all colliding. He looked at Lily, the sweet, joyful child who'd clung to him so easily. Then he closed his eyes, letting out a shaky breath. When he opened them, they glistened with tears. "She's mine," he said, wonder threading through the trembling statement. "This whole time she's our daughter?" Emma nodded, her voice lost. Lily stared at both adults with wide eyes, sensing the intensity but not understanding. Daniel reached out, brushing a tear from Emma's cheek. His own eyes shone with a mixture of anguish and awe. For a moment, neither spoke. The world spun, and Lily pressed the balloon to her chest as though offering comfort in her toddler way. Emma clutched Daniel's hand, tears still falling, apologies forming on her lips. He pulled her into a desperate hug, enveloping both Emma and Lily. "We'll figure this out," he said, voice breaking. "I missed so much, but I'm here now. He choked up, glancing at Lily. "I have a daughter." Emma sobbed against his shoulder, relief and guilt swirling. Lily squirmed but didn't cry. She just stared with curious innocence, as if she on some level had known all along. In that raw, vulnerable instant under the warm morning sun, everything changed. All the secrets Emma had carried, all the kindness Daniel had shown without knowing he was helping his own daughter, it crashed into a single undeniable truth. The father had found his child, and the child had quietly recognized him long before words confirmed it. Fate, it seemed, had finally threaded their lives back together. And though the path ahead would hold complications, uncertainties, and perhaps a chance to mend lost time, in that park, with Lily's small arms around them both, a new hope was born. The CEO and the single mom, no longer strangers, but a sudden, unexpected family at last. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen.